Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I, a disciple of the God of Law, became the biggest villain at the beginning. Chapter 1. On a road in the Holy Empire. A team of cars drove slowly. The leading carriage was very spacious, with gorgeous patterns carved on the outside and inlaid with various precious gems. The horses pulling the carriage were two pure golden-eyed unicorns. Golden-eyed unicorns are not only powerful, but also represent auspiciousness and luck. In the past, even if they only encountered a variegated unicorn, it would be enough to make those nobles crazy, and they would even spend a lot of money to buy it. But here, there are two pure golden-eyed unicorns with a holy light all over their bodies. If people see it, they will definitely shout incredible. Behind the carriage, there are more than a dozen smaller carriages, which are filled with various items, food, clothing, and some maids and male servants. The leader is an old butler who is meticulously dressed. On the periphery of the team, there are dozens of knights, each of them is tall and burly, wearing exquisite armor, with a long sword on their waist, and the war horses under their crotch or even more terrifying beasts. At the front of the team was a knight in golden armor, carrying a longbow and holding a long sword. Because of the mask, his face could not be seen clearly, and only through his eyes, a pair of fascinating eyes could be seen. He was Albert, the Dragon Knight of the Holy Empire. A powerful saint. When the Empire conquered the southern barbarians, he killed 2 saint wizards of the southern barbarians alone, and was hailed as the protector of the Holy Empire. However, at this moment, the god of war of the Holy Empire, the saint-level strongman, the Dragon Knight Albert, was guarding the convoy at the front of the team, and from time to time he looked back at the carriage in front, with a touch of reverence in his eyes. Although he was already a saint and the god of war of the Empire, every time he thought of the Prince of the Empire sitting in the carriage, Albert would always be shaken and his reverence could not be suppressed. When this Prince of the Empire was born, the purple air was vast and came 3,000 miles to the east. There was also a natural phenomenon, with 1,000 feet of light shining, which was as bright as day even at night. The magic elements between heaven and earth became more active, and the sky rained down sweet rain, which lasted for 3 days before stopping. The entire Holy Continent was shocked by the vision when the prince was born. The Archbishop of the Holy See believed that the prince was a descendant of the sun god, and would become the Holy Son of the Holy See in the future, and would be noticed and loved by the sun god. Some people also said that he was a natural god of magic, and several ancient beings living in seclusion on the continent were awakened and wanted to accept the prince as their disciple. Among them, the most powerful Saint Laurent Magic Academy on the mainland, the oldest dean, the most powerful magician in the Holy Continent, and the god of magic walking in the world, came out of seclusion and came to the capital. Albert still remembers the scene of that scene. The Lord of Magic, who is loved and respected by everyone on the mainland, stroked the head of the little prince and said, "Born to know, born to be a god. This child is extremely talented. When he is 16 years old and comes to Saint Laurent Academy, I will personally teach him magic knowledge. Of course, if he is willing." The god of magic actually asked to accept him as a disciple. And he must respect the wishes of the little prince. What kind of honor is this? Everyone was shocked by the words of the Lord of Law. Since then, because of the words of the Lord of Law, both the church and other ancient beings have given up the idea of accepting disciples. After all, even the Lord of Law has spoken. They know that they can't compare, so it's not easy to speak. However, everyone knows that the future destiny of this newly born Prince of the Empire is definitely extraordinary. Everyone is waiting for him to grow up, waiting for him to reach the age of 16. And this prince really did not disappoint everyone's expectations. In the following 16 years, although he did not start practicing any magic or fighting spirit because of the words of the God of Law, he showed incredible wisdom. Under the manipulation of this prince, the empire carried out various bold reforms and wars, which made the increasingly bloated empire regain vitality in just 16 years. Now, it has become the most powerful country on this continent. Now, 16 years have passed. The prince of the empire has finally reached the age to go to the Saint Laurent Magic Academy to receive the teachings of the God of Law. And he, Albert, served as the guard of the prince's trip and accompanied him all the way. Although it seems a bit of a loss of status to let him, the Dragon Knight of the Empire and a strong man of the sanctuary level, serve as a guard, this is Albert's own request. In his opinion, this is an honor. It is also a witness. Witness a bright star that is about to rise on the continent. What a sacred thing is this! When he thought that he would be able to see the Lord of Law personally accept the prince as his personal disciple soon, Albert couldn't help but feel excited and couldn't help himself. Fortunately, he was also a Saint-Domingue strongman, so he quickly calmed himself down and continued to lead the team forward, while vigilantly observing the surroundings to prevent any unruly people from coming to attack. Although this place is not far from the Saint Laurent Magic Academy, he thinks that no one will dare to take action here, but he still dares not relax. After all, this prince is the expectation of everyone in the entire Holy Continent. In the carriage, the Snow Wolf, which was comparable to the Saint-Domingue level in life, was spread on the floor after death. It was soft and clean without any impurities. The hanging incense ball exuded a faint fragrance. This was made of 10,000 years of agarwood supplemented with the most precious spices. Even the Saint-Domingue strongman would be refreshed when he smelled it. In addition, the food, clothing and daily necessities in the carriage were all the best on the continent. On the periphery of the carriage, 4 young girls with delicate looks and beautiful figures stood by. They were all daughters of the empire's nobles, but they were sent to the palace for training since childhood, just to serve the empire's prince who was born to be a god. Don't underestimate them as maids. They have to be selected from thousands of noble daughters of the same age from all over the empire, and only those who stand out can take the position. Whether it is appearance, etiquette, talent, background, or loyalty, they are all excellent choices. They live and eat with His Royal Highness and grow up together. Now, although they are only 16 years old, their magic skills have reached the level of magicians. They are His Royal Highness's personal maids. They are also His Royal Highness's closest guards. They have been instilled with the concept of loyalty to His Royal Highness since childhood. In an emergency, even if they self-destruct, they must protect His Royal Highness's safety. Their bodies and minds, from the moment they stand out and become maids, have completely become His Royal Highness's private property. At this time, although the 4 maids stood aside, they were secretly looking at the figure in the middle of the carriage. Wearing a gorgeous silk coat, spotless, slender, handsome, and elegant, people will feel good at first sight. This person is none other than the Prince of the Holy Empire, His Highness Lin En, who is about to become a disciple of the God of Law. Lin En sat in the carriage, arms hanging naturally on her knees. The warm sunlight shines through the window, onto this flawless face and skin that even angels would envy, reflecting a crystal luster. In the haze, there is a thrilling beauty. Such a scene constitutes a perfect picture, which makes the 4 maids in the carriage feel excited. Their beautiful eyes are full of spring, and they can hardly control themselves. In the past 16 years, they have eaten, lived and grown up with His Royal Highness the Prince. Whenever they change clothes for His Royal Highness the Prince or accidentally touch His Royal Highness the Prince's skin, they can't help but their hearts beat rapidly. Almost jump out of their throats. How much they want to lie in His Royal Highness the Prince's arms openly and enjoy His Royal Highness the Prince's warm embrace. Although they know that His Royal Highness the Prince has a gentle temperament and doesn't care about their slightly abrupt actions. But they still don't dare. It's not that they don't want to, but that they can't. Compared with His Royal Highness the Prince, they are too ordinary and are not qualified to be noticed and caressed by His Royal Highness. When they thought of this, they even envied the sun. At least, the light could shine on the prince without restraint. But they couldn't. They could only look at him secretly, hiding their inner thoughts deep inside, and didn't dare to show them at all. However, the hot eyes that were cast from time to time clearly revealed their true thoughts. In their eyes, the world did not exist. In their eyes and hearts, there was only this figure in front of them. Anyone who saw such a look could see that these 4 girls had completely fallen. If such a scene was seen by outsiders, they would definitely be stunned. However, Lin En seemed to have not seen these looks. He did not move. In their eyes, the perfect prince of the empire seemed to be taking a nap, but he was actually sighing in his heart. It's been 16 years, and I can finally practice. Lin En thought faintly. 16 years ago, he was born on this continent of swords and magic. The system was activated when he was born, and he was given a novice gift pack, so he gained supreme talent. This is also the source of the strange phenomena of heaven and earth when he was born. Purple air came from the east, spanning 3,000 miles, and heaven and earth congratulated him. 10,000 rays of light shone, and the holy light baptized him, turning the night into day. Countless magic elements that ordinary people could not communicate with swarmed towards him, because the agitation of magic elements caused the world to change, and the rain of sweet rain fell for 3 consecutive days and nights. In addition to the system, he is also the little prince of the most powerful country on this continent, the Holy Empire. Such a start is not bad. Just when Lin En was fantasizing about dominating the world in the future, suddenly an old man appeared, stroked his head, and then said a few words, and then he found that he could not practice. Because this god of law sealed his talent with powerful magic ability. Let him wait for 16 years. Lin En didn't care, so he waited patiently for 16 years. During this period, Lin En did not waste time, but used the knowledge from his previous life to lead the country and make it stronger. At the same time, he also learned many skills through the system. In addition to magic and fighting spirit, almost all the abilities he could learn were learned by Lin En to the point of being unparalleled and close to the Tao. Now, he had just finished his 16-year-old coming-of-age ceremony, and under the escort, he went to the Saint Laurent School of Magic, ready to become a disciple of the God of Magic. When he thought that he would be able to break the seal and practice magic soon, and become a powerful existence beyond mortals, even Lin En couldn't help but feel excited at this moment. But he still suppressed his emotions. 16 years have passed, there is no need to rush. As the most powerful country on the continent, the Holy Empire has an extremely vast territory, with countless kingdoms and principalities of all sizes. The Saint Laurent School of Magic is located in the south of the central part of the empire, tens of thousands of miles away from the imperial capital. It took a long time to go all the way. On this day, Lin En was reading a book hidden in the palace in the carriage, and suddenly felt the carriage shake, and heard it in place. Immediately, he heard Albert's respectful voice from outside. "Your Highness, we are here." Lin En put down the book, walked out of the carriage, and suddenly saw his eyes brighten. In the distance ahead, a huge mountain range stretched across, and an academy was located on it. On the outskirts of the academy, there was a surging river that stretched far away, with no end in sight. A sky bridge spanned the river, one end resting on the shore, and the other end extending straight up into the depths of the forest. Like a giant dragon flapping its wings, it was arrogant and aloof. This 1,000-foot-long sky bridge was built entirely of simple bluestone, and under the sunlight, it shone with a faint luster. Looking further away, one could see castles hidden among the towering ancient trees, with various exquisite courtyards dotted among them. Saint Laurent bloomed in competition, and wisteria flowers covered the entire mountain. At a glance, it was gorgeous and beautiful. In addition, a series of magical lusters soared into the sky, breaking through the clouds and smoke and breaking through the universe. In the air and on the ground, rare and precious animals that were extremely rare outside could be seen everywhere. They either jumped and walked quietly in the forest, or circled and cried in the air. Is this the Saint Laurent School of Magic? Seeing this scene, Lin En couldn't help but take a deep breath. Yes, Your Highness. Albert walked to Lin En's side and looked at the huge school that surrounded the entire mountain range in the distance. With his cultivation, he could feel that countless powerful auras were rising into the sky in the school at this time and were coming towards this side. He knew that the following was the most brilliant moment for His Highness. So he stepped back slightly, highlighting Lin En's absolute status, and said with a tone full of awe and pride, "Here is the most ancient and powerful Saint Laurent School of Magic on the continent. It is also the place where Your Highness will be enrolled. But I believe, Saint Laurent School of Magic will welcome your arrival very much. And because of your arrival, Saint Laurent School of Magic will have a more brilliant history in the future." Is that so? Lin En did not comment. Of course. Albert said. Albert believes it and has always believed in it. July is a harvest season. It is also the season for Saint Laurent School of Magic to recruit new students. The continuous crowds of people lined up from the entrance of the school to the end of the overpass. The overpass, which is 1,000 feet long and 10 feet wide, is now overcrowded. This is only part of it. At this time, new students are coming from all over the empire, even outside the empire. Saint Laurent School of Magic is the oldest and most historic magic school on the continent. It not only has the only god of magic on the continent as the dean, but also has countless powerful magicians teaching here. Many powerful people started in Saint Laurent. This is the dream of magicians and the cradle of the strong. As the first academy on the continent, if you want to come to Saint Laurent for further study, you must undergo a unified test. In addition to testing magic talent, spirit, endurance, practice, and comprehension all need to be tested. Even so, it is not certain that you can enter the gate of Saint Laurent. Because among the hundreds of thousands of people who are eligible to participate in the selection every year, only less than 1,000 people can enroll. Such a cruel elimination rate still cannot extinguish those who have magic dreams and strong ambitions. They flock here like moths to a flame. Under such circumstances, even the children of princes and nobles, and even the descendants of the imperial court, cannot be directly selected. But Lin En is different. As the dean of the Magic Academy, a god walking in the world, and a disciple appointed by the god of law, Lin En naturally skipped the external assessment and became a freshman to be assessed. Of course, the so-called assessment is just a formality. Dean's office. Lin En carefully looked at the dim environment around him. The black curtains blocked the sunlight completely, and the floor was covered with thick blankets, white and soft. Saint Laurent bloomed on it, with pure white stamens mixed in the purple petals, beautiful and noble. On the wall, there were simple lamps. But what was placed on it was not an oil lamp, but a fist-sized glowing crystal, with a hazy halo emanating from it. This is the essence of the earth. In the outside world, a fingernail-sized thing is enough to drive people crazy, and even the saint-level strongman would be tempted by it. But here, it can only be used as an oil lamp or something like that for lighting. Lin En is not the only one in the room. During the waiting period, Lin En saw no less than 10 saint-level magicians coming to greet him and ask about his well-being. These strong men are all mentors in the academy. Any one of them is enough to make the leaders of the major countries treat him with courtesy and dare not offend him in the slightest. But in front of Lin En, they are full of kind smiles. Even a little flattering. Lin En understands their thoughts. As a mentor in the academy, even if it is a saint-level magician, who would not want to teach a powerful disciple who can reach the realm of the god of law? The saint-level strongmen are indeed legends on the continent. But a teacher of the god of law is enough to become an epic in the mouth of the bard. Make countless people worship him. In the face of these mentors' concern, Lin En just smiled and took a sip of tea from time to time. Such an attitude would be considered rude to others. But in Lin En's case, not only did he not feel disrespected or offended, but he felt like being bathed in spring breeze. After all, who could hate a young man with extraordinary talent, extraordinary appearance, outstanding temperament, and unlimited future? Therefore, although these Saint Domain masters were turned away, they did not get angry. Instead, they did not hide their praises in their conversations. For these, Lin En's ears have been calloused by them. But he still smiled, sat on the chair, and waited patiently, waiting for his magic teacher to appear. In the teacup, there were a few pieces of tea leaves floating, as if they had just been picked, floating up and down in the water, green and juicy. This is a specialty of the elves living in the deep forest. Drinking such tea can increase the affinity with the magic elements between heaven and earth. For magicians, it is a very precious treasure. Saint Laurent Magic Academy exchanged various materials with the elves, and it is exclusively for tutors and outstanding students to drink. However, no matter how magical its effect is, Lin En doesn't care much. He has been drinking this cup of tea for half an hour. From steaming to completely cooling, this tea tastes very similar to the tea in the previous life. And Lin En, no matter in the past life or this life, doesn't like to drink tea. I don't know how long it took. Just when Lin En was bored and was about to finish this cup of tea, the noise from the outside world suddenly stopped. Then, he saw a person walk in. He was wearing a gray cloak, a silver scarf, and holding a cane in his hand, looking very delicate and gorgeous. His silver white hair was scattered behind him, and his long beard fell down to his waist, which was meticulously groomed. His face was ruddy and shiny, and his slightly upturned lips showed his affinity. And his pair of green-blue eyes were very eye-catching, flashing with the light of wisdom. The traditional image of a magician, but more vicissitudes and longevity than them. And a breath of time. This is the dean of Saint Laurent Magic Academy, Vino. Although he looks young, in fact, he has lived for countless years. He is the recognized strongest among the human race, a god of law walking in the world. Seeing this man, Lin En immediately stood up and bowed to him. Dear child, you are finally here. Seeing Lin En standing tall, Vino had undisguised admiration in his eyes. It seems that in the past 16 years, you were better than I thought. This comes from your blessing. Lin En said softly. There's no need to talk about this between us. Vino looked at Lin En and said directly, my child, are you willing to be my disciple? He spoke directly and made a request to Lin En. After hearing this, Lin En did not agree directly, but asked, before agreeing, I want to know, why do you like me so much? You know, you are a god of law walking in the world, and you don't need to condescend to recruit disciples in person. Hearing this, Vino was very frank and did not hide anything, because you are the most special existence I have ever seen. After saying that, he took out the staff representing the god of law, and the crystal stone at the tip of the staff fell on Lin En's eyebrows. The next moment, colorful light suddenly rose up, illuminating this wide office. The countless magic circles engraved in the whole room also appeared under the stimulation of this magic talent, and the magic patterns shone with light, making people feel dazzled. Watching this scene, Lin En was silent for a moment, then raised his eyes, with a hint of an unintentional smile in his eyes, which was a kind of recognition. Vino also smiled. He stroked his gray beard and said cheerfully, child, please believe me. From now on, Saint Laurent will be more brilliant because of you. At the entrance of the academy, in the enrollment square in front of the overpass. Recruitment is still going on. Students came forward one by one to be tested for magic talent. Soon it was the turn of a young man in luxurious clothes. He placed his hand on the magic stone tablet that could evaluate talent according to the instructor's request, and soon the stone tablet gave feedback. The yellow light shone, occupying about 1/3 of the area of the magic stone tablet. The instructor of recruiting new students glanced at it and said, upper middle magic talent in the Earth system. Seeing this result, the aristocratic boy, who was originally nervous, smiled immediately. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then glanced around with great satisfaction. The students waiting for the test around him all gave him envious eyes as he wished. This made the aristocratic boy even more satisfied. However, just as his eyes swept over a boy in plain clothes, his smile gradually subsided. This young man in plain clothes, although his clothes were very old, was very clean. He had a handsome figure and a distinguished appearance. What was more eye-catching was his eyes, which were bright and resolute, making people feel good at first sight. However, the noble boy named John could not get any good feelings. Instead, he looked at this plain boy with disgust. Why did a lowly child born of a maid come to Saint Laurent Magic Academy? Why did he put on such an indifferent attitude? For some reason, John, who obviously did not care much about his half-brother, could not suppress his inner disgust every time he saw him. Especially at this time, he could not hold back. So he stepped forward and could not help but say, Ron, you dare to come to me. The plain boy named Ron glanced at John and ignored him. He actually ignored me. John was furious and shouted, you, fool born of the maid who seduced the master of the house, stole my father's 100 gold coins, and dared to come to Saint Laurent. Do you think you can successfully enroll? I tell you, this is delusion. I must tell my father to take you back and break your legs. After saying this, some students around him looked at Ron with contempt. The maid seduced the master of the house and gave birth to a fool. Now she is secretly taking money from the family. Such behavior is really disgusting. Many noble children quickly moved away to avoid being mistaken for Ron's companions. And Ron, facing John's roar, couldn't help but clench his fists. But he didn't curse at John, but said in a deep voice, I came here, of course I want to join Saint Laurent Magic Academy. You, a fool born of a maid wants to join Saint Laurent, it's really wishful thinking. John said mercilessly, whether it is wishful thinking or not, you have no say. Ron said lightly, then looked at John's angry face, and suddenly said with interest, how about we make a bet? What bet? Let's bet on who has higher talent. If my talent is higher than yours, you will quit Saint Laurent, and vice versa. How about it, do you dare to bet, my good brother? Ron emphasized the 3 words, good brother, and emphasized his tone. Ron's calm tone, coupled with such a bet, obviously has some kind of support. Under normal circumstances, anyone can see that something is wrong. However, John at this moment seemed to be blinded by anger and did not notice this at all, and agreed directly. Let's bet. I want you to know that Saint Laurent is not a place that you can set foot in. John's shouting did not make Ron's face fluctuate at all. The new recruiting instructor witnessed this bet. After the bet was established, Ron walked forward leisurely and put his hand on the magic stone tablet. The next moment, the stone tablet suddenly emitted a sun-like light, and the scorching temperature made the students a few meters away feel the heat wave coming towards them. This, the ultimate magic talent of the fire system. Looking at the fully illuminated magic stone tablet, the new teacher couldn't help but exclaimed. And the students who were watching this bet also widened their eyes. No, this is impossible. John's eyes flashed with disbelief, his lips kept trembling, and drops of cold sweat ran down his forehead. He shouted in disbelief. This is impossible, how could a fool like him have talent? He is just a fool as humble as dust, destined to be trampled into the mud. How could he have such a high talent? You must have used some special method. Yes, you must have cheated. How can a mere ant compare with a noble person like me? What's more, he is not as good as this guy. John stepped back step by step, unable to accept the fact in front of him. The new recruiting instructor looked at John, who was already incoherent, and couldn't help shaking his head. Said, according to the bet, please leave as soon as possible. Although he also felt disgusted with Ron's background and secretly taking out money, the bet is a bet. The most important thing for a magician is character. Everyone must abide by the agreement. No, Ron must be cheating, he must be cheating. I don't accept it, I don't accept it. John shouted at the top of his lungs. But the instructor ignored him, but waved his hand and cast a magic to forcibly expel John. The test continued. Although Ron successfully proved himself, many people still despised him in their hearts because of his background and his behavior of stealing money and running away. Feeling these eyes, Ron, who was standing in the queue of students, looked calm, but his hands were secretly clenched. He and John were both sons of an earl in the Duchy of Robertson under the Holy Empire. But John was the earl's legitimate son, while he was born to a maid. His mother was a maid in the earl's mansion who was determined to climb up. After the earl came back drunk one time, the maid climbed into the earl's bed as she wished. After 10 months of pregnancy, Ron was born. Ron's mother, who thought she could be honored by her son, found that after Ron was born, his living conditions did not improve at all. Instead, he was disliked by the earl, and even the ladies and maids in the mansion did not treat her well. The maid did not get the result she wanted, so she made a big fuss in the mansion. The earl lost face. Finally, the earl, who could no longer bear it, had to drive the maid out of the house, and Ron stayed in the earl's mansion because of his blood. Ron had never seen his mother since he was a child, and his father didn't like him and let him fend for himself. Finally, when Ron was 16 years old, he had a fever and no one paid attention to him, and he died, and was replaced by a person from another world. That person died in an accident, and then somehow came to this world, possessed Ron and survived. After he became Ron, his unparalleled will to survive kept him alive. It is worth mentioning that when he came to this world, he also brought a necklace. And that mysterious necklace, after sensing the magic elements of this world, was completely activated, thus transforming his body and making him a true magic genius. After he really understood this world, he felt that he had to live well in this world. He is Ron, and Ron is him. He swore that he would replace Ron, stand at the top of this world, and let Ron's name resound throughout the continent. Just to accomplish this, he had to escape from the earl's mansion first. With his transcendent vision in his previous life, he easily deceived everyone, and then one night, he stole a box of gold coins from the earl and ran away. He found out that the Saint Laurent School of Magic was the most powerful school on the continent and was recruiting students, so he traveled day and night. On the way, he unexpectedly met an injured magician. In his original world, there were beautiful women. He was so intoxicated in the world of mortals that he saw countless women. Later, he was infected with an incurable disease and died. Although the injured magician had a beautiful face, he was not in his eyes. But Ron saw her identity through the robe of the Saint Laurent School of Magic on her body, so he put aside his dissatisfaction with her appearance and saved the magician. And after she woke up, she successfully got the pity of the female magic teacher by telling her tragic fate, so she decided to bring him to the school for assessment in person. On the way back, the female teacher's superior strength and the financial resources of a magical family completely made Ron sink. Realizing that this was an excellent stepping stone, he vowed to get the female teacher's love at all costs. Along the way, under Ron's deliberate guidance, there were countless opportunities that did not endanger his life but were enough for him to perform heroically. Every time Ron used his cleverness and wisdom that he had already laid out to solve the crisis. Even if his strength was very weak, he could always rely on strategies to defeat the strong with the weak. Facing a man who unconditionally shielded her from the wind and rain, no woman could refuse. Even the female teacher with superior magic strength could not resist. In his heart, he could not help but regard him as a dark horse with unlimited potential and look at him with new eyes. Therefore, the female teacher taught him all along the way and provided him with various teaching plans for the college entrance examination wholeheartedly. Coupled with Ron's already superior talent, it was a foregone conclusion that he would become a member of the college. Although it was not so smooth for him to enter school because of his good brother, and he even got some bad reputation, but Ron didn't care. He believed he must be the destined protagonist of this world. He will soon rise strongly, and then let all those who look down on him be slapped in the face. He wants to grow up, he wants to stand at the top of this world, and he wants to get the beauty back. Ron shouted in his heart. Magic is a profound knowledge. It is not just about attracting magic elements. It is more about the application of knowledge. Pure violence will only limit your growth. The reason why I sealed you for 16 years before was because I didn't want you to be immersed in the power of magic so quickly and get lost. On the other hand, it is also because your talent is too high. This may be a good thing for others, but it was a disaster for you at the time. In the dean's office, Dean Vino was explaining to Lin En why he sealed his talent. When you were just born, your body was too weak, but your talent was always attracting the magic elements that were moving in this vast world. In order to prevent you from dying because you could not bear this powerful force, I could only resort to this last resort. But fortunately, you are now 16 years old and have a strong body. You can completely bear it. Listening to this, Lin En smiled and said, Teacher, are you going to remove the seal on me? Of course. Vino smiled slightly, and then lightly tapped his finger. In an instant, a complex magic circle suddenly appeared in the void, and the dazzling light illuminated the entire office as bright as day. Lin En only felt that something seemed to be detached from his body. Snap! A crisp sound, as if some shackles were broken. In an instant, boom! A loud noise. Within 1,000 miles, the originally gentle and gentle magic elements suddenly rioted, as if a calm stream turned into a roaring sea. They formed a huge funnel in the sky, and the colorful magic elements rushed forward like sharks that smelled blood. Such a strange phenomenon instantly alarmed the entire Saint Laurent Magic Academy. What happened? It can actually cause a riot of magic elements within 1,000 miles. What kind of strength and cultivation is this? Even the Saint Domain mage can hardly cause such a big commotion. Could it be that an external enemy attacked the Magic Academy? In front of the overpass at the entrance of the academy, countless students were stunned by the scene in front of them. They looked at the scene in front of them with shock. The teacher who was recruiting new students was also stunned. His first reaction was that the school was invaded by foreign invaders. Although he was shocked and unbelievable, he still flew into the sky quickly to prepare for the enemy. However, at this moment, he seemed to hear something and was stunned. A moment later, the teacher landed with a confused face. Teacher, what happened? As the magic school attacked. It is said that a teacher in the school has successfully broken through to become a sanctuary mage. Looking at the face of the new teacher, the students at the door asked one after another. This voice pulled the teacher back from his trance. Looking at the noisy students, he frowned and said, Silence. A loud shout spread throughout the overpass. All the students felt their brains buzzing and dizzy. They all quieted down immediately. Then they looked at the teacher in horror. It turned out to be a great magician. A 5-star great magician, put outside, is at least a worshipper of the kingdom. But in Saint Laurent Magic School, it was just a new teacher. The foundation of the first academy on the continent can be seen from this. Just when the students were shocked, the great magician waved his hand and said in a shocking tone, "Don't guess blindly." Just now, the prince of the Holy Empire lifted the seal of his talent, which caused the strange phenomenon. You don't need to pay too much attention to it, just continue to complete your test. One word, 4 people were shocked. All of them knew more or less about the past that shocked the continent 16 years ago. The Prince of the Holy Empire has been gifted since birth, and has attracted the attention of the church and countless bigwigs. Even the god of magic came forward and accepted him as a disciple. But the talent was sealed, and he would come to become a disciple when the prince turned 16. This time, a group of students came to the Magic Academy to register, hoping to study here, and to meet this legend on the continent. They also knew that to be accepted as a disciple by the god of magic, he must have extraordinary talent. But what did they see now? Just by removing the seal of talent, it can lead to a vision comparable to the breakthrough of a Saint Domain mage. How could this not shock them? His Royal Highness has such a talent, he will become a Saint Domain mage in the future. Sacred Domain. For you and me, the Saint Domain may be our lifelong pursuit, but for His Royal Highness, the Saint Domain is just a beginning. I really hope to be His Royal Highness's follower. Someone murmured subconsciously. Yes, yes, the people next to him subconsciously echoed. However, when these people's words were heard by a noble boy in luxurious clothes, he mocked them mercilessly. With your middle to low magic talent, you still want to follow His Royal Highness? How ridiculous. The noble boy first expressed disdain for their words, and then looked up at the vision deep in the academy. I have a superior magic talent of the fire system, but I have little hope of following this prince. As soon as these words came out, the previous few people wanted to refute subconsciously. But after thinking about it, they finally fell silent. Yes, with their magic talent, so mediocre, how can they be qualified to follow His Royal Highness? They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Of course, some female college students were also whispering quietly. It is said that His Highness Lin En is very handsome. I wonder if I can see him at the entrance ceremony. With powerful talent, profound background, and handsome appearance, His Highness Lin En is really fascinating. I really want to follow His Highness Lin En. Even if I am just a maid to serve him, I will be satisfied. I am afraid we are not qualified. ... Listening to these whispers in his ears, Ron in the crowd couldn't help but look up and look at the terrifying funnel caused by magic elements in the depths of the academy. His heart was screaming, why can he be born with such a talent and be admired by everyone? Why do I work hard to change my destiny, but I am still despised? These envious words around him sounded so harsh to Ron. Why he also has excellent talents, but is despised because of his birth. And that His Highness Lin En, just because of his noble birth, is envied by everyone, and even wants to follow. God is unfair. Since God is unfair, I will go against God. I will rise up strongly. Then I will trample the so-called His Highness Lin En under my feet. Let you natives know who is the real son of destiny. Who can really laugh last. At this moment, Ron felt a strong disgust for Lin En, whom he had never met. Although Lin En had never shown up, he didn't even know Ron. It seems that I still underestimated your talent. After a long time, Vino, who had just recovered from the shock, could not help but sigh. He had not yet practiced magic, but relying on his physique alone, he could drive the magic elements within 1,000 miles to go crazy, forming a funnel around him. This phenomenon can only be achieved by a magician at the sanctuary level when he does not restrain his own aura. However, ordinary sanctuary mages are single system. In other words, they can only attract a certain type of magic element. But at this moment, the magic elements pouring into Lin En are colorful, and they are clearly from all systems. Such a talent, even Vino, the god of law walking in the world, has lived for a long time, and has never heard of it. This is enough to show how unique Lin En's talent is. With such a magical talent, you will soon be able to cross the apprentice level and enter the formal magician field. Vino suppressed his inner surprise and said, then now, I will begin to teach you magic knowledge. In ancient times, countless abyss monsters invaded. In order to fight against the monsters, humans gradually discovered the magical elements between heaven and earth in the struggle, which could cause terrible damage to the monsters. As a result, humans discovered the power of magic. Later, under the guidance and research of a group of predecessors, a complete magic training system was gradually created, allowing magicians to gradually occupy the mainstream. Of course, these are all old sayings, and Lin En is also clear. Therefore, Vino simply explained it briefly, and then got to the point. There are magic elements everywhere in the world. If you want to attract these magic elements, you need to have talent. You can imagine the body as a container, and talent as the tool to guide the magic elements into the container. Only with tools can you absorb the magic elements into the body. So far, there are 9 levels of formal mages, and before becoming a formal mage, there is still a level of magic apprentice. Vino said, if you want to become a formal mage, you must attract the magic elements everywhere in the world and build a magic star track in the spiritual sea of consciousness. The more magic star tracks you build, the stronger the mana in your body, and the more powerful the magic you can cast. However, if you want to build a magic star track, you need to subdue the magic elements and arrange them in a certain pattern in the body. But as we all know, magic elements are very active. If you let them behave themselves, it is very difficult. Many sanctuary mages also took a long time to do this step. Vino's words were not finished, and he suddenly stopped. Then his eyes suddenly widened. Lin En opened his arms, as if to embrace the world, and with his movements, the magic elements that were originally floating around him in the world were arranged in a very orderly manner and entered Lin En's body. So many magic elements poured in, not only did not cause any chaos, but each of them was law-abiding, as if, very eager and very expectant. They all fell according to Lin En's thinking in a certain trajectory, motionless. Soon, a dazzling starlight chain was formed. And when this starlight chain was formed, Lin En's body shook slightly, and a breath belonging to the mage quietly dissipated. And with his body as the center, it was still spreading outward. Teacher, is this how to construct the magic star track? Lin En opened his eyes and said softly. He could feel that in the sea of spiritual consciousness, the extremely tiny magic particles, like the dust of stars, gathered into a gorgeous star track under the guidance of his thoughts. However, it seems that because there are magic particles of various systems, this star track is colorful and looks very complicated, which makes Lin En frown subconsciously. Buzz. The next moment, the bright star track suddenly spread out, and then constructed star tracks with the same color. Soon, 7 star tracks were constructed. Each star track was the same color. Some were brilliant, with a faint warm breath, like a river of stars. This was the water element magic star track. Some were sparkling, with a scorching hot fire, as if facing a volcano. This was the fire element magic star track. The 7 magic element star tracks of water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness stayed quietly in Lin En's spiritual sea of consciousness. Only after they were all classified did Lin En nod with satisfaction. As if sensing Lin En's joy, the 7 magic star tracks were also unusually bright, and became cheerful in the spiritual sea of consciousness. The magic elements floating around him also flowed into Lin En's body more happily. Under such circumstances, magic star tracks were constructed one after another. Almost in the blink of an eye, 49 magic star tracks had been constructed. After constructing the magic star track, Lin En felt a little depressed in his mind, so he had the idea of resisting. As soon as he had this thought, the magic elements stopped pouring in and continued to surround him. This scene was clearly seen by Vino. Although he didn't know what happened in Lin En's spiritual sea of consciousness, he could feel that those magic elements that ordinary people could hardly subdue were unusually well behaved around Lin En. No, it shouldn't be called well behaved. Rather, pleasuring. These magic elements are actually trying to please Lin En. Vino opened his mouth wide for a while, not knowing what to say at all. As a god of magic, he has lived for countless years and witnessed countless miracles. His experience are the most precious treasures of all magicians on this continent. But at this moment, the god of magic walking in the world was shocked to find that his experience and magic experience, which he was proud of, were completely ineffective on this newly accepted apprentice. Teacher, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with my magic star track? Lin En, who had come to his senses, looked at Vino's strange face and asked in surprise. No. Vino seemed to want to say something, but his lips trembled a few times, and he didn't say anything in the end. When learning magic for the first time, he could instantly subdue magic particles and construct 49 magic star tracks. You know, successfully constructing a magic star track as a 1-star formal magician. And constructing 36 magic star tracks as a 2-star magician. Similarly, 81 magic star tracks are 3-star magicians. In other words, Lin En has just come into contact with magic and has become a 2-star magician. Such a talent. The magic god walking in the world couldn't help but think of the distant past. When he first came into contact with magic, it seemed that it took him one day to enter the ranks of formal mages. Because of this speed, Vino was once complacent about it. But now, the magic god looked a little embarrassed. Seeing his disciples' increasingly puzzled eyes, Vino coughed a few times and pretended to be calm and said, "There is nothing wrong with your star track, but it is still a little worse than what the teacher had at the beginning." "Yes, I will definitely continue to work hard." Lin En nodded and didn't say much. But a kind smile appeared on his face. Although Vino didn't say it, Lin En knew what he was thinking. This god of magic walking in the world often likes to mention the past. At the annual freshman entrance meeting of Saint Laurent Magic Academy, Vino always tells his past to encourage freshmen. Such as, "Although I am a god of magic, for me, the happiest days are when I was a magic apprentice. Although I became a formal magician in just one day. But in that less than one day of magic apprenticeship, it will be the happiest time of my life." Set a small goal first, such as becoming a formal magician in one day. I pretended to be so powerful at the beginning, and now I have to pretend even if I cry. Lin En laughed secretly in his heart. However, seeing Vino's face flushed, he did not point it out directly. After all, he still had to save some face for his teacher. The god of magic is the god of magic after all. He quickly sorted out his mood and wisely skipped this topic. Now that you have become a formal magician, there is a magic secret book. It is my experience about magic. You can take a look. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me. Of course, if I am no longer here, you can also ask other mentors in the academy. I believe they will be happy to guide you." As he said, Vino stretched out his hand and took out a book from the void. This move immediately attracted Lin En's attention. This is the power that can only be possessed after opening up space and mastering the laws of space. Seeing Lin En's eyes, Vino finally found the superiority of being a god of magic, and smiled casually. "When you become a sanctuary magician, you will have the opportunity to do this." Lin En nodded, putting aside Vino's complacent expression. The magic of opening up space is really amazing. In this case. Then let's set a small goal first, become a Saint Domain mage. Thinking this in his heart, Lin En took the book and saw that the whole book was very old, and the breath of time was blowing in his face. Opening it casually, there were some experiences and insights about magic everywhere. Between the lines, there was also the understanding of the law of the god of magic. Lin En had no doubt that if this book was circulated, it would definitely cause a sensation on the mainland. Countless magicians will go crazy for it. Even the sanctuary magicians will not be able to resist the desire in their hearts and will grab it. No other reason. It is because this is the perception of magic and the understanding of the law by the god of magic. Better than any natural treasure in the world. Lin En carefully accepted the book and placed it in his storage ring. I thought the god of magic was going to see him off, and Lin En was about to say goodbye, but who knew that at this moment, Vino thought about it and took out another item from the void. A staff. It was about 1 foot long, pitch black, and looked a bit like a branch at first glance. In fact, it was a branch. Because Lin En saw that there was a small bud at the tip of the staff. The whole staff was simply engraved with a few magic inscriptions, which looked ordinary. "This is the staff I used before I became the god of magic. Its body is a branch of the world tree. I broke it off and randomly engraved a few magic inscriptions on it to make it a staff. It's quite handy. Now that you've become a magician, I'll give it to you," Vino said softly. His tone was very relaxed, but if others heard this, they would be shocked and speechless. This is a staff made of the branches of the world tree. Legend has it that the world tree is the tree that supports the sky and the tree of life. It has been protected by the elves since ancient times and is known as the holy tree of the elves. Ordinary people, even the strong ones in the Holy Land, want to see it. And listening to Vino's words, not only did he see the world tree, he even broke off a branch and used it as a staff. Just because it was handy. I'd like to call you the strongest if you're showing off. Lin En shook his head, feeling a little helpless. Taking the staff, Lin En was about to appreciate it carefully. But at the moment when he held the staff in his hand, buzz, the void seemed to tremble, and Lin En's consciousness also trembled at the same time, as if he felt an invisible force coming from the staff, which actually resonated with his spirit. With a sudden inspiration, he held the staff in his hand and drew a mysterious trajectory in the air. At the same time, he chanted a spell. Freeze. A strange scene appeared. First, a bright light lingered on the head of the staff, and then an invisible ripple appeared from the tip of the staff, spreading around like ripples. Wherever the ripples passed, the water elements between heaven and earth became rapidly active, and then sublimated in an instant, turning into ice crystals, and completely frozen. Buzz buzz buzz. At this time, the ripples had spread to the walls of the office, and countless magic array lights flashed on the walls, but these lights were covered by ice as soon as they flashed out. All this happened in the blink of an eye. The whole room was instantly frozen. A hint of cold air spread, and the violets blooming on the stalls withered. Lin En was stunned. The magic god Vino was even more shocked. Since seeing Lin En, he completely lost his composure for the first time, and subconsciously exclaimed, "Master Tianyi." God's will magician. Lin En looked puzzled. In the past 16 years, he has read the palace books and learned many secrets about magicians. But he has never heard of God's will magician. Seeing Lin En's doubts, Vino said, "In ancient times, humans discovered that magic could cause damage to abyss monsters, making magic the mainstay of resisting abyss invasions, admired by countless people, and gradually becoming the mainstream. But most of these magicians have learned it after birth. And the so-called God's will magician can trigger the explosion of magic elements without learning, and is a genius who is born with magic power. They save human civilization, lay the foundation for magic civilization, promote magic creation, and lead the direction of magic. They are natural magicians, the pride of heaven among thousands. They will surely become magic gods. And such people are called God's will magicians." At this point, Vino sighed, with a touch of nostalgia in his eyes. It is said that the appearance of each God's will mage represents the beginning of a great era. In ancient times, the abyss invaded, and human heroes emerged endlessly. In the early days of magic, there were several God's will mage active. It was under their leadership that the road of magic was laid. But God's will mage is too rare after all. It is difficult to see one even in 1,000 years. At least in the endless years I have experienced, I have never heard of anyone who is a God's will mage. And you are the first one I have seen. After saying this, Vino glanced at Lin En, waved his hand weakly, and said, "Forget it, you go back first." "Yes." Lin En nodded, although he didn't care much about the God's will mage. But looking at Vino's mental state, it was obvious that this god of magic was hit. After a salute, Lin En quietly left the dark office. Because of the lack of support from magic elements, the freezing magic gradually became ineffective and eventually dissipated. The purple Saint Laurent also bloomed again, bright and dazzling. In the whole house, only Vino was sitting at the table. The desk lamp was dim, reflecting on his face. There was silence. After an unknown amount of time, a murmur came. "What an enviable child." Lin En, led by a mentor, went to his residence. On the way, he looked at the staff given by Vino. Although the inscription on the staff looked very casual. However, when Lin En was casting spells before, he could clearly feel a faint power coming out of the staff, which was very consistent with his own magic power, and it was particularly smooth when casting magic. Speed up the casting speed, increase the power of magic, and contain magnificent vitality. Feeling the characteristics of the staff, Lin En nodded with satisfaction. This staff is indeed extraordinary. When Vino gave it to him, it seemed very casual. But in fact, for this god of law walking in the world, there are countless bards on the continent who have praised him. The staff he used when he was young was naturally named by the world the magician's artifact, Vino's singing staff. Based on the branches of the world tree, the inscriptions contain the understanding and perception of magic by the god of magic. It is a serious artifact. Lin En is the little prince of the Holy Empire. He has been loved and valued since he was a child. He has countless treasures and genius treasures on him, but this is still his first real artifact. Very good. He happily accepted it and placed it in his storage ring. His residence is not in the dormitory area of other students, but in the tutor area. And it is deep in the back mountain of the college, surrounded and protected by several holy domain mages. An independent castle. There are 3 floors above and 2 floors of laboratories below. In the yard, purple Saint Laurent blooms and various exotic flowers and plants are in full bloom. This should have been the residence of the Holy Domain mentor, but because of Lin En's talent and identity, he lived here. Nearly 100 maids and servants, under the command of the old housekeeper, carried down the daily necessities of His Royal Highness. 4 maids were arranging the bedroom. They will serve Lin En's daily life. In fact, according to the rules and regulations of the Saint Laurent Magic Academy, no student is allowed to have slaves and maids in the academy. But Lin En is the prince of the empire and the apprentice of the god of law after all, so he naturally cannot be judged by common sense. Lin En was flipping through Vino's notes in the courtyard. At this time, he saw dozens of knights stationed, alerting the entire castle, and Albert, the leader, was even busier, and he was stunned. Albert! A shout. The powerful Holy Domain Dragon Knight immediately came over, bowed and saluted, and said respectfully, "Your Highness." There was no concealment of respect in his eyes. "Albert, aren't you going back?" Lin En asked curiously. Albert is the god of war of the empire and the commander of the Saint Laurent Royal Army. Lin En thought that he would lead the team back after escorting him to the academy. But who knew, it seemed that he planned to stay here permanently. "Your Highness, His Majesty asked me to escort you to the Saint Laurent Magic Academy. But I hope to be loyal to you." Albert said. "Be loyal to me." Lin En was a little surprised. "Does my father know?" "Of course, I have obtained His Majesty's permission." At this point, Albert knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Your Highness Lin En, you are an adult. According to the practice of the Holy Empire, you can accept your followers. And I, the Dragon Knight of the Holy Empire, Albert Fran, is willing to swear on the honor of the Fran family that from today on, I will follow your Highness to death, be loyal, and stay by your side. I hope your Highness can accept Albert's loyalty." As soon as this sentence came out, all the busy people in the whole castle put down their work. They cast their eyes over. On the mainland, swearing allegiance is a very serious and solemn matter. Once the oath is established, the loyalist will not betray for life, otherwise he will be despised by everyone. And the loyalist must also bear the corresponding responsibilities. Generally, this kind of oath is worth witnessing. Even if it is an ordinary noble contract, it must be carried out in public, and it is cited as a good story. And now, a holy dragon knight swears allegiance to the prince of the empire, and they naturally cannot miss it. Looking at Albert kneeling on one knee on the ground, his eyes are full of expectations. There is no doubt that Albert is a dragon knight who has entered the sacred realm. He is very powerful and is the god of war of the empire. If you can get the loyalty of such a knight, there will be many benefits. What's more, Albert has shown his intention to be loyal many times on the road. Therefore, Lin En has been mentally prepared. At this moment, he waved his hand without hesitation. The old butler held a long sword with both hands. This long sword is very gorgeous. It is engraved with complicated patterns, inlaid with various precious gems, and a Saint Laurent emblem is engraved on the hilt. This is the emblem of the Holy Empire royal family. It represents the glory of the Holy Empire royal family. Lin En took the long sword, held it horizontally, and placed it on Albert's shoulder. "In this case, I, Lin En Saint Laurent, accept the allegiance of Albert Fran in the name of the royal family, and from now on grant the Albert family prosperity, glory and power." A tedious oath process. Finally, it ended with the applause and cheers of the crowd. In the following time, Lin En has been reading in the library of the academy. In theory, after entering the school, students must participate in the freshman entrance competition and attend classes normally, and they must not be absent without reason. But Lin En was taught directly by the dean and did not participate in the normal academy courses. If he was interested, Lin En could go to class at will. But in his opinion, if he had time to watch those old professors teach those boring courses, it would be better to go to the library to read books. The library in the Saint Laurent Magic Academy is the largest library in the entire continent. It is said that there are hundreds of thousands of precious data, which is more than 10 times larger than the library of the imperial family. Many of the books here are very precious, and there are many unique books. Ordinary students, even teachers below the holy domain, can only borrow part of the collection. But these restrictions are naturally useless to Lin En as a student of the dean. This privilege is always there. This day, after Lin En put on his clothes under the maid's clothes, he went straight to the library. The keeper of the library today is an old magician named Lando, a sanctuary magician who has experienced the colorful magic era with countless geniuses competing for the top. He once stood on the same battlefield with his teacher, the god of magic, Venor. But this sanctuary magician named Lando has never glimpsed the realm of God. At this age, he has long seen through fate and can be indifferent to everything in the world. But he is very interested in Lin En, which is unusual. This is not only because of Lin En's talent and background, but also because he is diligent and studious. The moment Lin En stepped into the library, Lando quietly descended in front of him from the secret room deep in the library, his pale beard slightly lifted by the magic elements, and greeted, "Your Majesty Lin En, who is studious, what knowledge can be so lucky to learn from you today?" What kind of knowledge can be absorbed depends on the recommendation of the respected and knowledgeable Lord Lando. Without your guidance, I would be a lost lamb in this huge library. Lin En said with a smile. Hee. Lando laughed dully, echoing in the towering ceiling of the library. You praise my knowledge so much, Vino will be jealous. No, in my opinion, you are unmatched in the field of books. At least if I have to choose between you and teacher Vino, I would rather spend time with you when reading. Lin En smiled as usual. You are so sweet at such a young age. Go, I have prepared your book for you in advance. Lando, who was serious, always couldn't stop smiling in front of Lin En. Lin En nodded and went to read in the booth that Lando prepared for him. On the table, there were several old books, which were secret books collected deep in the library. Lin En picked them up and flipped through them, and soon immersed himself in the ocean of knowledge. What a diligent and studious child. Not far away, the white-haired old man looked up at Lin En, who was sitting by the window in the morning light. The faint sunlight fell on him, and time seemed to be frozen because of it. Lando tried to imprint this scene forever, because he knew that this would be the beginning of a new legend. Then, he looked at the female students who kept coming in, and the students who were about to be filled with students, and his smile was even brighter. It seems that because of His Highness Lin En's diligence, there are many more studious students in the academy. Lando was in a very happy mood. And in his words, most of those studious students came to the library not because they were studious. But they secretly looked at Lin En. Everyone knew that Lin En came to the academy. But because Lin En did not participate in the course, many students were disappointed and could not see this mysterious prince. Fortunately, the fact that Lin En often read books in the library was leaked. Therefore, during this period of time, the library, which was usually deserted, suddenly became lively. Is this His Highness Lin En? He is so elegant, he is simply my perfect match. His Highness Lin En is so handsome, he is really the epitome of perfection. In him, I feel all the beauty in the world. I really want to follow His Highness Lin En. Many young and beautiful female students held books in their hands, but their eyes were fixed on Lin En. Looking at His Highness Lin En, who lived a peaceful life, their eyes were so hot. The feelings of respect and admiration were almost bursting out of their bodies. I heard that His Highness Lin En is very talented, but I don't know what level he is now. At least he is a one-star formal magician. It is said that Ron, who just enrolled this year, seems to have entered the ranks of formal mages and is about to break through to the 2-star magician level. In that case, that Ron has a higher magic talent than His Highness Lin En. How is that possible? His Highness Lin En was sealed for 16 years and was just unsealed when he enrolled. It is already amazing that he can become a formal mage in such a short time. And that Ron was already a magic apprentice before he enrolled. That's true, but even so, Ron is also very good. He won the first place in the college's freshman competition and defeated many powerful opponents. It is said that even a 2-star magician is not his opponent. But unfortunately, he is just a maid, and it is said that his character is not very good. These whispers naturally reached Lin En's ears. For these, Lin En has long been immune. He was still concentrating on the book in his hand. As for Ron, although Lin En didn't care, he was reading in the library. Many students also let him know more or less when chatting. From the son of a maid to the head of the freshmen of Saint Laurent Magic Academy, his talent and perseverance were praised by many people. Many people flocked to him and became his followers. Even some mentors in the academy were optimistic about him. They thought he might be able to reach the level of the Holy Domain in the future. In addition, his handsome appearance was also discussed privately by many female students. It was said that he had some relationship with a beautiful mentor in the academy, and his popularity was unparalleled. When he first heard the news, Lin En was also stunned. This is completely the template of the destined protagonist. But he didn't care much. After all, for him, no matter how talented Ron was, he was not at the same level as him. However, just when Lin En shook his head and planned to continue reading. According to the information, the system has detected the complete template of the Destiny protagonist, and now releases the relevant tasks. The rise of the useless. Ron, the son of the maid of the Earl's mansion, was reborn and rose strongly with the talent of a useless person. The host now has two choices. 1. Ignore it, and never have any contact with Ron's fate again. 2. Suppress it, plunder Ron's destiny, and get rewards. This system is designed to serve the host. The tasks issued are all unlimited tasks. No matter how the host chooses, there will be no punishment measures. Any choice made is decided by the host. The system's prompt sound suddenly rang in his mind. After hearing this sound, Lin En was stunned. After 16 years, the system actually showed up. The origin of Lin En's system is very mysterious. The reason why it is mysterious is that so far, Lin En does not know what this system does. Other systems, for example, have names, such as God level selection, God level reading, the strongest face slapping, and so on. But Lin En's system has never introduced itself. Except when Lin En was born, the system binding gave a novice gift package with super high talents. Then when Lin En was interested in a certain activity, it jumped out to help him upgrade his skills to the maximum level. In the past 16 years, the system only appeared when Lin En needed it. He worked hard and was like a dog. Apart from that, he was as quiet as a chicken. But now, the system actually jumped out. And gave such a strange task. The rise of useless people. Ignore it, or kill it. Recalling the task-related information given by the system, Lin En put down the book with a thoughtful look on his face. Ron, even if he came from another world, Lin En didn't care. Even if the other party brought a system, it had nothing to do with him. After all, they had no intersection. As long as Ron didn't provoke him, he wouldn't take the initiative to pay attention. The reason why Lin En was hesitant was that he was thinking about what the system on him was. Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. Unable to figure out any clues, Lin En simply stopped thinking about it. Picked up the book in his hand and continued to read. However, at this time, there was a noise in the library again. It's Ron Jr. Ron, is he the freshman leader of the college this year? Wow, he looks pretty handsome, and his temperament is also very good. Yes. In the library, many colleges whispered to each other. As the voice came, a figure walked slowly in at the door of the library. Still wearing simple clothes, starched and clean. A head of golden hair, burning like fire, black pupils, as deep as the netherworld, seeming to be able to trap people's eyes. When he walked, his steps were steady and his temperament was calm, which made people feel good at first sight. Look, at this moment, many students in the library greeted Ron with a smile. Some of the female students even came forward to show their courtesy. Although Ron had some bad rumors in the college, he was too talented after all, and his image and temperament also fascinated the girls. In addition, Ron deliberately created a gentle and elegant temperament to widen himself, so they subconsciously ignored those details. And Ron also waved his hand to greet. Brother Ron, are you also here to read books in the library? At this time, a girl said with a smile. No. Ron shook his head, and then his eyes looked around the entire library, as if scanning something. I'm here to find someone. Find someone. Brother Ron, who are you going to find? You tell me the name, maybe I can help you find it." The girl smiled cheerfully, showing a mouthful of white teeth, looking youthful and beautiful. If it were normal times, Ron might be tempted to have a deep exchange with her. But at this moment, he didn't have that thought. His eyes were fixed on a certain window. Ron shook his head and said, "No need. I've already found him." As soon as the voice fell, Ron walked straight forward. "Found? Who is Ron looking for?" Hearing Ron's words, everyone was confused. As the current head of freshmen, Ron naturally attracted the attention of many people. Seeing that he came to the library to find someone, many people subconsciously focused their eyes in front of Ron. And this look, everyone was stunned. Because, right in front of Ron was the window. And there, at this moment, there was only one person sitting in the booth. The warm sunlight sprinkled on the man through the window. The man was reading a book with a focused expression, so peaceful and natural. Seeing this person, it was like seeing tranquility and harmony. It was like a beautiful painting. No one had the heart to break it. But at this moment, Ron walked over. Ron, what does he want to do? He actually went over. Could it be that Ron wanted to find? Everyone widened their eyes. There was a vague guess in their hearts. As expected, under everyone's gaze, Ron walked in front of Lin En and shouted, "Are you Lin En? I heard that you have unparalleled talent and have been accepted as a disciple by the god of magic. I want to challenge you." Boom! It was like a thunderclap in the plain. In the entire library, everyone was shocked by Ron's words. It was not that Ron's words contained much power, but no one expected that Ron would be so bold. He could not help but call His Highness by his name, and even wanted to challenge His Highness Lin En. "This is simply insolent." A loud shout suddenly resounded in the library. "You can't call His Highness by his name. Quickly retreat." A mentor came quickly, and the voice came over when he was still halfway. As soon as the voice fell, the man had already landed in front of him. He said to Ron in a stern voice, "Ron, who allowed you to be so bold and disrespectful to His Highness? If His Highness had not been so tolerant and generous and did not care about you, you would have made a big mistake today. What are you doing? Why don't you apologize to His Highness?" Although the student teacher's words were harsh, he was tolerant of Ron in his words. Obviously, he came to make up for the rudeness in Ron's words. After all, a magic genius cannot be damaged like this. Therefore, after admonishing Ron, the instructor turned his head again, bowed and saluted, and said to Lin En very respectfully, "Your Highness, I'm sorry to disturb your interest. I will take Ron away now. I hope you don't mind." However, the instructor's words were not finished. He was interrupted by Ron's voice. "Lin En, I want to challenge you." Ron's face was solemn, and he said solemnly, "If you are a man, don't be a turtle." Chapter 11. How dare you? Ron, what on earth do you want to do? Know your identity. If you keep pestering His Highness Lin En, no one can save you once His Highness gets angry. Why don't you apologize to His Highness right now? Seeing that Ron dared to challenge His Highness Lin En, the shocked crowd around him suddenly went wild. They spoke up one after another and shouted angrily. In their opinion, what kind of person is His Highness Lin En? He is like the bright moon in the sky, high above and untainted by dust. And Ron is just the son of a maid. Even if he wins the first place of the freshmen of the Saint Laurent School of Magic, he is at best a young magician with a good future. In terms of identity, compared with His Highness Lin En, one is in heaven and the other is on earth. It's like a world of difference. An ant-like person actually wants to challenge a real dragon. This is simply courting death. Compared with the onlookers who were in uproar and Ron who stepped forward to provoke. His Highness Lin En, who had been reading by the window, sighed silently. Is this the rise of the Son of Destiny? How could Lin En not be familiar with this scene? This is clearly the classic plot of the Son of Destiny pretending to be cool and getting slapped in the face. He, Lin En, as the Prince of the Holy Empire and the disciple of the God of Law, has a high status and is respected and loved by countless people. The protagonist who shoulders the destiny has a humble background and a miserable life, and then relies on his own efforts and perseverance to rise against the trend. In the academy, he showed his talent and climbed up all the way, gaining the admiration of cold female classmates and the love of beautiful tutors. During this period, he also slapped the face of him, the big boss of the academy. And now, if nothing unexpected happens, It must be Ron who challenges him, the villain, tall, rich and handsome, and suppresses him strongly under the doubts of everyone. Then he was in a mess and his reputation plummeted. And Ron rose strongly and received the attention of many tutors in the academy. It is even possible that even the God of Law will look at him differently. As for the beautiful tutors and the cool female classmates, they will probably rush over like moths to a flame. This old routine, Lin En can guess the plot development with his toes. Lin En. Just when Lin En was quite impatient with this plot. At this time, Ron had called Lin En several times in succession, but there was no response from Lin En. He didn't even bother to look at her. This attitude of complete contempt and disregard for him made Ron's heart sore with anger, and his fists clenched. Because of the force, even his knuckles were a little white. Ron, I think you are really crazy. You have repeatedly provoked His Highness Lin En, you are simply ignorant. Come on, arrest this audacious man and put him in the dungeon. At this time, seeing that Ron did not listen to the advice at all, the college tutor who spoke for him before finally lost his patience. This Ron, he really doesn't know how to advance or retreat. He is obviously talented, and his behavior and words are neither humble nor arrogant, not like the son of a maid. This also makes him feel good about him and have high hopes for him. But who knew that Ron seemed to be crazy and kept provoking His Highness Lin En? He is really looking for death. Although he was disappointed, fortunately he still considered that Ron had some potential, so although his words were harsh, he even planned to throw Ron into the dungeon. But in fact, he was saving Ron. Throw him into the dungeon, wait for punishment, and there is still a chance to survive. If he really angers His Highness Lin En and takes action directly, this Ron will be hard for the real God of Law to save. At this time, because of the noise in the library, many tutors who were originally reading books in it were attracted. After learning the whole story, their eyes suddenly lit up. This is a rare opportunity to curry favor with His Highness. A group of tutors stood up and began to scold Ron for his disrespectful behavior with righteous words. Ron has repeatedly offended His Highness, and he really has ulterior motives. In my opinion, it is better to throw Ron into the dungeon and wait for punishment. Throw him into the dungeon. That's really a bargain for him. Report directly to the law enforcement knight and drive him out of the academy. At the same time, report to the academic affairs office to abolish Ron's magic, expel him from the school, and expel him from the magic academy. That's right, that's a good idea, just in time to apologize to His Highness. Such a reckless person deserves to die. ... Listening to the scolding of the people around him, Ron's face suddenly turned pale. He suddenly realized that things didn't seem to go as he expected. Ron had a grudge against Lin En since he just entered school, and he always wanted to step on him. Therefore, when he learned about the college competition, he fought his way into the finals, but then he learned that Lin En didn't participate at all. He was very disappointed that he didn't have the opportunity to defeat Lin En in public. Because of this, even if he won the top freshman, he still couldn't be happy. Later, when he learned that Lin En had been reading in the library, he gradually had an idea in his mind. Go directly to Lin En and challenge him in public. He believed that he was so provocative and there were so many onlookers around. Seeing that he, the freshman leader, took the initiative to challenge the disciple of the God of Law, they must be excited. They will definitely add fuel to the flames and let the two of them fight. And this Lin En, as a prince of the royal family, has been spoiled since childhood. He will definitely not be able to withstand such provocation and will go down to fight with him personally. If he wins, that's naturally good. From then on, he will step on Lin En and gain countless benefits. Even if he loses, he can admit that his skills are not as good as others. He can even ruin Lin En's reputation in secret, saying that the other party is bullying others by taking advantage of his power. As long as he fights, he will be invincible. But now, Ron suddenly found that everyone was trying to please Lin En. And he was scolded by everyone. Why, this is completely different from what he expected. Why do these people want to flatter Lin En? Is it because of his high status? Is it because he was born in the royal family and is a disciple of the God of Law? Ron was very annoyed. The other party's indifferent expression, in his view at this time, was so disgusting. Lin En really didn't expect it. He didn't do anything, not even a word, but the son of destiny in front of him had red eyes. It was as if he had killed his whole family. Are all sons of destiny like this? No one in this world can disobey his will. If they are not satisfied, he will regard everyone as an enemy. The system originally prompted that there was a destiny protagonist who rose from a useless person, and asked him to choose. In fact, Lin En didn't intend to pay attention. Why bother with those so-called sons of destiny? It's better to practice honestly and become a god of law smoothly. Isn't it good? But now, I don't ask for trouble, but trouble comes to me. Is this the so-called entanglement of destiny? Lin En shook his head and laughed. Well, since it can't be avoided, let's see what kind of quality this so-called son of destiny who is born with destiny is. At this thought, Lin En had already made a decision in his heart. Put down the book. Lin En's eyes fell on Ron for the first time. The black robe covered his body, which made Lin En's handsome face more outstanding. His eyes were indifferent. Although his eyes had been cast, they were full of indifference, as if the gods lying high in the sky looked down at the ants. As if nothing in this world was worth his second glance. Such eyes made Ron's heart even more furious. They were both human beings. Why could Lin En be so high and mighty, while he was as faint as an ant? He must be stepped on. Lin En, if you have the courage, come and fight me squarely. Aren't you a disciple of the God of Law? Aren't you known for your unparalleled talent? Come and fight me if you have the guts. Amid the angry roar, magic surged in Ron's body. The majestic aura surrounded him and spread to the surroundings. The red magic light was as bright as the sun. At the same time, a majesty belonging to a magician emanated. Two-star magician. This Ron has actually entered the realm of a two-star magician. I heard that he is only at the peak of a one-star magician. How long has it been since he entered the realm of a two-star magician? And seeing how strong the magic power in his body is, he is probably not just entering the two-star realm. Hiss. This boy's talent is simply amazing. ... Seeing the magical aura surging from Ron, everyone in the library was shocked. No one thought that Ron had already become a two-star magician. Saint Laurent School of Magic, as the oldest and most powerful magic school on the continent, recruits students who are the best of their age. Students must study in the school for 5 years and become 3-star magicians in these 5 years before they can graduate. But even so, every year there are still some students who cannot graduate and can only be expelled from the school. And what about Ron? It has only been 1 month since he enrolled, and he has already entered the realm of a 2-star magician from a magic apprentice. Such a growth rate is simply astonishing. The discussion of the crowd reached Ron's ears. This also made Ron look complacent. Ever since he accidentally activated the necklace he brought, his body was transformed by magic and he had super high talent. Ron was confident that his talent was not inferior to others. He even thought sometimes, if it weren't for Lin En's strong background, it would be him, Ron, who would be the disciple of the god of magic. Thinking of this, he was even more angry with Lin En. It's all because of this Lin En. If it weren't for him, it would be me, Ron, who would be the disciple of the god of magic. Why is God so unfair? Ron thought so in his heart. He cursed the unfairness of God secretly. However, Ron didn't think of it at this time. If God wasn't unfair, how could he die in another world and live again in this world? If God wasn't unfair, how could he get such a talent and laugh at his peers? But he didn't see these, nor did he think of them. Or he didn't want to think about them. He never cherished what he had, but only looked up to others. Boring. Looking at the so-called son of destiny, the complacency on his face at this moment, and the resentment that followed. Lin En couldn't help but shook his head in disappointment. Such a mind, such a character, is the son of destiny who carries the destiny. This is really funny. Lin En waved his hand, showing a look of boredom. Forget it. Since you are so determined to provoke me, let me show you. Your so-called fearlessness is not courage. It is because of ignorance, which makes it ridiculous. After the words fell, Lin En's eyes flickered slightly. The next moment, a majestic and terrifying pressure, like the collapse of the sky and the collapse of the earth, instantly descended on the entire library. Boom! Because of the huge power, a terrible hurricane even set off in the entire library. On the wall, countless magic circles were engraved, and at this moment, they were also stimulated by this magic, runes flashing, and magic vibrated. Everyone felt a horror from the depths of their hearts. Even the several mentors present were keenly aware of the danger, and their faces changed drastically. This is the power of a 5-star master. Your Highness actually stepped into the level of a 5-star master. 1 month. 1 month to enter a 5-star master. Is this the real strength of your Highness? Everyone was dumbfounded and shocked. Shocked by Lin En's strength, and even more shocked by his talent. Bang! The crowd felt the majestic magic power, and Ron, who was the first to bear the brunt, was even more frightened by the sudden pressure and fell to the ground. He wanted to struggle, but the overwhelming pressure made him unable to raise his head. He gritted his teeth and insisted on standing up, even biting his face and lips, bleeding. He couldn't move at all. Crack! There was a sound of broken bones from the knee. Ron finally couldn't hold on, and fell to the ground, bowing in front of Lin En. His strength. Why is it so strong? I don't accept it. Ron screamed, using all his strength to raise his head with difficulty. Looking at the tall figure in front of him, as if overlooking all living beings, his eyes showed unyielding and unbelievable. In the library, Lin En stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes indifferent, with endless alienation. And at his feet, Ron knelt on the ground, in a state of embarrassment. His whole body was wet with sweat, his whole face was terrified, and his face was pale and bloodless. The hall was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared at this scene in a daze, their hearts trembling. Is this what you rely on? In this moment of silence, Lin En spoke indifferently. The voice was flat, and it sounded without any ups and downs. But in Ron's ears, he felt unparalleled humiliation and contempt. What is this? What is this? He, Ron, who was born with destiny and had superb talent, was promoted to the realm of a 2-star magician in just 1 month. In the future, he is expected to advance to the Holy Realm, reaching a level that countless people can hardly reach. But Lin En turned a blind eye to all this and didn't take it to heart at all. It was like facing an ant. What is this? At this moment, Ron was almost mad with anger, and the endless anger was burning in his heart, even swallowing up his reason. Fortunately, at this moment, the necklace on his chest suddenly gave off a cool feeling. Ron, who was almost possessed, was also affected by this, and his mind gradually calmed down. Lin En noticed Ron's abnormality keenly, and then naturally set his eyes on the necklace on his chest. It looked like a pentagram, with rust on the surface. It looked ordinary, but Lin En, who was used to this routine, knew very well that as the protagonist of the rise of the useless, the more inconspicuous things on him, the more precious they were. So, the grandfather he carried with him. Or the system space. Lin En frowned slightly, thinking. At this moment, Ron, who was kneeling on the ground, said calmly, Lin En, you are nothing but bullying others by relying on your status as the disciple of the God of Law. I tell you, 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West, don't bully the poor young man. As long as I am not dead, I will get back today's revenge from you sooner or later. 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. Bullying others by relying on power. He is really worthy of being the protagonist of the rise of the useless. Saying such words is really very easy. Lin En shook his head speechlessly. He could already predict the next plot. It's nothing more than taking 3 palms without dying, and making a 3-year agreement, which can be easily done with the mysterious necklace in his hand. After surviving, the useless protagonist practiced hard, and returned strongly 3 years later to slap the original villain boss in the face. An old-fashioned plot. Lin En felt very sick just thinking about it. A person who was reincarnated and reborn got a great opportunity, but he didn't know how to cherish it, but instead spoke nonsense here. Really think of himself as the protagonist of destiny. Do you really think I'm the cannon fodder of those brain-dead novels? Since you want the plot to develop like this, I won't let you have your wish. Thinking of this, Lin En looked at Ron and smiled. You said I bully others by taking advantage of my power. His voice was calm. There was no fluctuation. His face was indifferent. He could not see any emotion. However, when he said this, Ron's heart suddenly jumped, and a bad premonition suddenly arose. Since you have put the hat on my head, if I don't bully others by taking advantage of my power, I will really lose something. The voice fell. Lin En looked out the window and said softly, Albert. Boom. This name was called out. In the originally calm sky, a magnificent hurricane suddenly rose. Then, the clear day suddenly dimmed. A pair of huge wings covering the sky and the earth rose up, accompanied by a terrifying pressure, sweeping across the entire Saint Laurent School of Magic. Roar! The huge dragon roared, resounding through the world. Dragon! It's a dragon! What happened? Why did a dragon appear over the academy? Come here, come here. The academy was attacked by a dragon. In the academy, many students saw the dragon in the sky and were shocked. This is a dragon. On the mainland, dragons are extremely powerful. Every adult dragon is at the level of the holy domain. At this moment, under the pressure of the dragon, everyone felt a heavy pressure, as if facing the end of the world. Everyone was pale, their steps were weak, and their expressions were panic. At the same time, because of the appearance of the dragon, a strong aura appeared in every corner of the academy. They rose into the air one after another, shining with the light of magic, and the aura of the law was revealed. Holy domain. All of them are magicians at the holy domain level. At this moment, these holy domain magicians all looked pale, and the magic power in their bodies had been mobilized. How many years has it been since Saint Laurent School of Magic was attacked? Have they taken advantage of the opportunity for too long, so that the outside world has forgotten the reputation of Saint Laurent School of Magic? Now a giant dragon is coming to attack. Just when they were angry and ready to kill the giant dragon, they suddenly found that there was a person standing on the giant dragon. Albert. Seeing this man, several sanctuary mages were all surprised and doubtful. What are you trying to do? Your Highness, Albert is late, please forgive me. On the giant dragon, Albert held a long sword and wore armor, standing upright like a god. He did not pay attention to the sanctuary mages who asked questions, but bowed to Lin En first to show respect. This person was the god of war of the Holy Empire, Dragon Knight Albert. No problem. Lin En nodded slightly, and then his eyes fell on the sanctuary mages around him. At this time, these sanctuary mages also noticed Lin En and greeted him. After a greeting, one of the Holy Domain mages looked at the scene in the library and was shocked. He couldn't help asking, Your Highness, what happened? Lin En didn't say anything, but sat on the chair by himself, opened the book, and continued to read. Next to him, the tutor who had spoken for Ron had to bite the bullet and stand up at this time. He told everything that happened before. What did you say? Several Holy Domain mages were dumbfounded, and they didn't expect it at all. Since Ron entered school, he has been very talented and has attracted the attention of many tutors. Even these Holy Domain mages have heard of it. But now, what did they hear? Ron was so bold that he bumped into His Highness Lin En. Your Highness, this should be just a misunderstanding. A Holy Domain mage hesitated for a while, and still planned to ask Ron for mercy. After all, Ron's talent is also extraordinary, and he is expected to step into the Holy Domain in the future. I really don't want him to die here today. However, when he said this, Albert was immediately angry. Misunderstanding. What is your status? As a prince of the empire and a disciple of the god of magic, how could you come here if the dean did not invite you personally? Now Ron has repeatedly bumped into your highness. He really has ulterior motives. Instead of arresting this thief, you say it's a misunderstanding. Albert's momentum was unreserved, and his voice was like thunder. Have you old guys been teaching for too long that your brains are broken? Your Highness can come to Saint Laurent because of Dean Vino, not just Saint Laurent Magic Academy. I tell you, if Saint Laurent Magic Academy does not give a reasonable explanation today, the Holy Empire will never give up. The faces of several sanctuary mages were very ugly. Albert's shameless words were really too hard to hear. Although in fact, everything he said was true. After all, although Saint Laurent is the oldest magic school on the continent, with Lin En's background and talent, there are many powerful magicians willing to be his teacher. Not to mention, the imperial family has its own royal magic school. In fact, if the god of law was not the dean of Saint Laurent, it would be impossible for Lin En to come here to study. But knowing it is knowing it. After all, this statement is too straightforward, which makes them very embarrassed. Several sanctuary mages looked at Lin En and found that he was just flipping through the books carelessly, without even raising his eyelids. It was as if he didn't care about anything in the outside world. They understood. This matter might not end easily. The Holy Domain mage who spoke earlier took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "How does your highness intend to deal with it?" "How do you intend to deal with it?" Albert sneered. "Ron has provoked your highness many times, and his intentions are ill-informed. According to the laws of the Empire, he should be killed and his 3 clans should be exterminated." What? Everyone's face changed drastically when they heard Albert's words. Several Holy Domain mage exclaimed, Isn't this too much?" They really wanted to say, "Why is it so?" It's just that Ron wanted to challenge His Highness Lin En, and he didn't cause any substantial damage, so why should he destroy the other 3 clans? After all, Ron is not a commoner, but a noble. They wanted to plead for mercy, but looking at His Highness Lin En with a calm face, and then looking at Albert with a flamboyant attitude, they couldn't say the words of pleading anyway. Like a lump in the throat. Compared with these Holy Domain mages, the most panicked one at this moment is Ron. He never thought that things would evolve to this point. I clearly just wanted to challenge Lin En and step on him. Why? Why did he have ill intentions? And was killed. Doesn't this mean that he will die this time? No, I still have great ambitions to achieve. I haven't become a god of magic, I haven't stood at the top of the world. I can't die. How can I die here? Ron's face was hideous and his whole body was trembling. He was roaring wildly in his heart. But besides the roar, there was more fear. When Albert said this, the threat of death enveloped him. The will to survive made him want to beg for mercy, but when he raised his head, he looked at Lin En's indifferent expression, as if nothing mattered to him. The words of begging for mercy could no longer be said. "I am a Blue Star native, with insights and knowledge far beyond you natives. I have extraordinary talent and the help of the necklace. How can I beg for mercy from you natives? If you don't beg for mercy, you will die." Ron was struggling with his conscience. He wanted to beg for mercy, but his inner pride or arrogance prevented him from doing so. More importantly, Lin En's calm and noble attitude deeply hurt his inferiority complex hidden deep in his heart. As an ordinary person on the Blue Star, even if he traveled to another world and possessed abilities that ordinary people could not imagine, but inferiority still lingered on him. It was precisely because of his inferiority that he was afraid of nobility and deeply disgusted with it. Just when Ron was struggling, just when several sanctuary mages were in a dilemma. At this time, Albert seemed to have received some instructions. He was stunned for a moment, and then he spoke slowly, "But Your Highness has a kind heart. Besides, since Your Highness has come to Saint Laurent Magic Academy, you should give Saint Laurent a face out of affection and courtesy. Therefore, the 3 clans will be spared. But the death penalty can be spared, but the living crime cannot be escaped. It is a fact that Ron has bad intentions, and Saint Laurent Magic Academy must give a result for this. Abolish Ron's magic skills, expel him from school, expel him from the academy, and never recruit him again. This is Your Highness's bottom line." Listening to what Albert said, several sanctuary mages were silent. Although this punishment is still a bit severe, it is much better than the previous 3 clans. At least, there is no need to kill people. And they also understand that His Highness Lin En has made a lot of concessions to make such a decision. They can't say anything more. So at this moment, there is only one choice before their Saint Laurent Magic Academy. Deal with this matter as soon as possible and give an explanation to His Highness. Thinking of this, the Holy Domain mage took a deep breath and said, "Your Highness, I would like to express my gratitude on behalf of Saint Laurent School of Magic. Please rest assured, Saint Laurent will definitely give a satisfactory answer." After saying this, although the final result has not been announced, everyone present understands it. Ron is finished. As expected, Ron intends to do something bad to the Prince of the Empire. The evidence is true. From today on, Ron's magic skills will be abolished and he will be expelled from the school. He will no longer be allowed to consider himself a student of the school, otherwise he will be severely punished. A voice like the law of heaven came out from the mouth of the Holy Domain mage. No, I am wronged, I did not want to do anything bad to His Highness Lin En, I did not. Save me, I don't want my skills to be abolished. I don't want to be expelled from the school. Don't do this to me, Linda, Linda, please plead for me, please plead for me. Hearing the verdict on himself, Ron suddenly turned pale and bloodless. He yelled and tried to beg for mercy. But the Holy Domain Mage didn't listen at all. He abolished his magic skills and threw him out of the academy gate. In fact, the Holy Domain Mage was very dissatisfied with Ron. You have a good talent, but why can't you practice well? You have to cause trouble. Now, you have offended His Highness Lin En, not only ruining your future, but also implicated them. You deserve it. Is this the Ron who was expelled from the academy? That's him. He was a magic genius and the freshman leader of our academy before. Now he has fallen to this point. It's really sad. Sigh, I think he deserves it. He didn't want to be the freshman leader, but he had to provoke His Highness Lin En. He deserves to die. That's true. In my opinion, he probably became the freshman leader and was flattered by everyone. He thought he was invincible. Yeah, he actually wanted to challenge His Highness Lin En. He didn't even look at his own identity and status. How could an ant want to look up to a real dragon? It's ridiculous. It is said that he is just the son of a maid, and he stole money from his family to run away. No wonder. With such a character, it's no wonder he is arrogant. Or he doesn't have enough vision. Let's go. Stay away from this arrogant guy, so as not to be contaminated by bad luck. At the gate of Saint Laurent Magic Academy. He followed closely and staggered towards the outside. The students passing by were talking about this scene. Their words were full of contempt. That's right. Even though he was the son of a maid, he was a natural talent, crushing many nobles and becoming the freshman leader. But privately, many people did not obey him very much. It was just that these nobles originally planned to defeat him in the next freshman competition. But who would have thought that Ron would actually provoke His Highness Lin En? Now he was beaten back to his original form. This made them sigh and gloat over the misfortune. Recalling the time when Ron was high-spirited, he was so arrogant and looked down on others. And now, they only want to say one thing. It's what he deserves. Caw. Ron lowered his head, but his drooping fists were clenched and creaked. These words were clearly heard by his ears. Like thorns, they pierced his heart. He hated it. He was unwilling. Coming to another world, gaining extraordinary talents, he thought he could become a superior person and stand at the top of the world. But who would have thought that he would be knocked down just as he started on his way to the top? Feeling the empty spiritual sea of consciousness in his body, Ron's face was distorted, and his fingernails were deeply embedded in his palms. He had been abolished from magic cultivation and had become a useless person at this moment. Even worse than a useless person. And all this was thanks to Lin En. I hate it. The extremely suppressed roar came out of his throat. Lin En, it's all because of you. If it weren't for you, how could I have fallen to this point? Hatred and anger almost swallowed up his reason. But just when he was about to lose his reason, he suddenly calmed down. Looking back at the magnificent Saint Laurent School of Magic, he slowly walked out step by step. Once, this was the place he dreamed of. But now, he just wants to do everything he can to destroy this place. However, he did not attack immediately. After this experience, he has grown a lot. He will not be so high profile if he does not have enough strength. Thinking of this, he held the necklace hanging on his chest, with a slightly comforted look on his face. He saw this necklace at a street stall in his previous life. At that time, he just thought that this ordinary necklace was very attractive to him, so he bought it on impulse. Later, by chance, a drop of blood dripped on the necklace, and then he found that the necklace emitted light and enveloped him. When he woke up, he came to this world. In this world full of magical elements, the necklace showed its magical power and helped his body transform, becoming a rare magical physique in history. In addition, this necklace has more magical features, but due to his lack of strength, many of them have not been explored. But there is no doubt that this necklace must have an amazing origin. If he wants to rise again, he can only rely on this necklace. When I was deserted by everyone, you were the only one who stayed with me. He murmured. However, at this moment, he seemed to sense something, suddenly opened his eyes, looked somewhere, and a hint of vigilance appeared on his face. Soon, the man came closer, allowing him to see the beautiful and flawless face clearly. You are you here to see my joke? Looking at the person, Ron's vigilance in his eyes was slightly reduced, but he still said indifferently. Ron, I am worried about you. Linda looked at Ron's cold eyes, full of worry. I am just an ordinary tutor, and there is no way to save you. So after learning that you were expelled, I applied for resignation from the college. What? Hearing this, Ron's expression was somewhat moved. Although Saint Laurent School of Magic is the pain of his life, there is no doubt that as the oldest school on the continent, its status is unquestionable. I don't know how many powerful magicians want to teach here. And Linda actually resigned from Saint Laurent School of Magic for him. Ron couldn't help but take a deep breath, and his face eased. Thank you for being with me at this time. There's no need to talk about this between us. Linda shook her head. Then she looked at Ron and said, what are you going to do next? What? Ron held the necklace in his hand, and his eyes flashed fiercely. Find a place to learn magic again, and then. He didn't say the rest. But the hatred contained in these words made Linda understand clearly. Ron, listen to my advice. Don't think about revenge. Lin En clicked. His power is too strong. It's not something we can resist at all. Linda wanted Ron to give up this idea and said, why don't we? However, she was interrupted by Ron before she finished speaking. Don't mention Lin En, that fool, in front of me. Ron's face suddenly became ferocious, and he roared, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have fallen to this point. Today he made me suffer such humiliation, I will definitely retaliate tenfold or 100-fold in the future. I want to let Lin En know that things change over time, and don't bully the poor young man. Ron, will never sink like this. I want him to regret it. I want him to pay a heavy price for his actions today. I want him to be haunted by regret from now on. The roaring words, like the howl of a lone wolf, spread throughout the wild. The resentment and anger contained in these words made Linda shudder. She looked at Ron standing in front of her, and the gentleness and spring breeze that originally attracted her disappeared, leaving only resentment. A thought suddenly popped up in her mind. Why does Ron make me so fascinated? Is it worth leaving Saint Laurent for him? She had no way to verify this year. Because, you don't have this chance. A cold voice suddenly came from the sky. Ron and Linda looked up subconsciously. They saw a giant dragon flapping its wings in the air, and a mighty man in gorgeous armor stood on it. It was Albert. At this moment, Albert looked down with a cold look, without saying anything, and pointed directly. Boom! The violent explosion spread throughout the surrounding area of 100 miles. The dust gradually dissipated. Albert landed and searched the devastated land. Soon, he saw two bodies. One of them had completely lost his life and his body was broken. The other one still had a faint breath. Seeing this scene, Albert exclaimed lightly, with a look of surprise on his face, you are really lucky. Fortunately, His Highness asked in advance to see the body alive or dead, otherwise you might have escaped from death this time. Looking at Ron, who was dying in front of him, although Albert's words did not fluctuate much, it seemed that he was just a little surprised. But in fact, there was a storm in his heart. As a strong man at the sanctuary level and a dragon knight, his strength was stronger than that of ordinary sanctuary knights. With his strength, moving mountains and filling the sea with a wave of his hand is not a problem. Just now, he pointed out with at least half of his strength, and the whole mountain was flattened, and the 5-star mage Linda was broken. But this Ron, who had just been abolished and regarded as a useless person, could still survive. This is incredible. No wonder His Highness asked me to come and kill him, and even cared about him in his words. It seems that this man really has a big secret. This thought flashed through his mind. At this time, the dying Ron looked at Albert standing in front of him, his eyes full of despair. He didn't expect that Lin En not only abolished his cultivation, but also sent a strong man from the Holy Land to ambush and kill him. He thought that such a big man would never pay more attention to him after abolishing him. But who knew? Hey, it seems that I am destined to have this disaster. God, you let me come to this world, but let me die like this, are you playing with me? I am unwilling. I haven't realized my lofty ambitions yet, and I have to die here. I hate it, Ron whispered softly, with a lot of unwillingness and resentment in his words. Albert just smiled faintly after hearing this, Are you done? You're done. Let's get going. After that, he didn't let Ron say anything more, but directly raised his long knife and chopped it down. Gululu. With a head flying into the sky, Ron also completely lost his life. At the moment when he was completely dead, Ron was rarely resentful, and there was only one thought in his mind. I wish I could have another chance. He actually hoped to have a chance to reincarnate again. But this time, he really didn't have this possibility. After killing Ron, Albert searched Ron's body first according to His Highness's previous instructions. Soon he found a necklace. After taking a closer look, he carefully placed it in his storage ring after confirming that it was correct. Then he set fire to Ron's body. After seeing the body burn completely, he waved his hand and buried the place. Old buddy, let's go. Albert rode on the dragon and left without looking back. Whoosh. The breeze blew gently, making the leaves rustle. I don't know how long it took. In the silent and ruined land, a figure suddenly appeared in the area that was originally empty. She was wearing a black robe with the emblem of Saint Laurent School of Magic on her clothes. It was obvious that she was a student of the school. Her long golden hair was slightly curled, her skin was fair, and her face was beautiful. With such a look, if she was in a town, she would definitely stand out. But in a place like Saint Laurent School of Magic, where nobles are everywhere and there are many geniuses, she seems ordinary. At this moment, the woman was pale and panicked, with shock and helplessness in her eyes that were difficult to conceal. She was terrified by the strength of the strong men in the Holy Land. But she was even more surprised by Ron's death. What happened? Why did Ron die here? The woman's face was full of confusion. Because of the shock, she subconsciously murmured the thought that was originally in her mind. Her name is Rosa. She was originally the concubine of a marquis of the Rhine Principality under the Holy Empire. Her mother had a difficult birth when she gave birth to her. After barely giving birth to her, she soon passed away, leaving her alone. The marquis loved his mother very much, but the marquis loved her for a very short time. After her mother died, he soon forgot her. The lady of the marquis's mansion was very dissatisfied with her and often made things difficult for her. Later, when she was 16 years old, the lady of the marquis's mansion finally couldn't stand her existence anymore. She advised the marquis to marry her to a divorced country baron. Her temperament was originally plain. Even if she married a country baron, it was nothing. Life would still go on. But unexpectedly, the baron was not only old, but also liked to drink, especially liked to beat and scold her after drinking. His previous wife could not bear the baron's beating and scolding, so she fled from the baron's home. After learning the truth, she immediately fled from the baron's home, and then wandered all the way, and finally enrolled in a small magic academy. After testing, she learned that her magic talent was very good, but unfortunately, because of her early years of wasting time, she missed the best age to practice magic. She finally practiced only to the level of a 4-star wizard, and finally was ambushed and killed by a dark wizard when she was traveling outside. I thought her life was over, but who knew that she would live again? Back to her childhood. After learning that she had a chance to start over, after being surprised, she swore that she must change her fate. And this time, relying on the memory of her previous life, she took the lead and slapped the lady in the face in the mansion, and won some love from the marquis's father, and then followed the power of the marquis to secretly kill all his enemies in his previous life. Especially the baron, who was locked in the dungeon by her and tortured by herself for 3 days and 3 nights before killing him. After settling all the grudges, she recalled the power of magic, so she decided to live again in this life. She wants to reach the pinnacle on the road of magic. In her previous life, it was magic that made her find the joy of living. She was also deeply fascinated by the power of magic. But unfortunately, because she missed the best time to practice, she only reached the level of a 4-star magician in her entire life. In this life, she foresaw and made up for her regrets early, so she could naturally go further on the road of magic. Relying on the power of her father, the marquis, and her own talent, she successfully passed the test of the Saint Laurent School of Magic and became a student here. The reason why she came to Saint Laurent was that it was the best and oldest magic school on the mainland. As for the second point, Which is also the most important reason. She clearly remembered that the god of magic who traversed the continent in her previous life, Ron, known as the Emperor of Flame, rose from here. She wanted to get the friendship of this god of magic at the beginning. In her previous life, she was just an ordinary magician. She didn't know much about the god of magic Ron, but she had heard rumors about him. She only knew that this person started to emerge from the Saint Laurent School of Magic. First, he won the first place in the freshman class of the Magic Academy, and then challenged His Royal Highness Lin En, the Prince of the Empire. After a hard fight, he was defeated and made a 3-year agreement. Then, this Ron began his legendary journey. He went deep into the forest of monsters and obtained the rare 10,000-year spirit essence, which upgraded his talent to a rare holy body in history, and the magic elements of heaven and earth were extremely friendly. He helped the elves resist the invasion of the dog-headed people, won the favor of the Queen of the Elves, and even married the little princess of the elves. He made friends with the goblins and received a gift from the great forger of the goblins, and got a sanctuary-level staff. He killed the dragon, formed a mercenary group, and helped the Empire resist the invasion of another continent. One by one, Ron's legendary stories spread throughout the continent under the singing of the bard. Then the 3-year agreement came, and Ron returned to the Saint Laurent Magic Academy. In front of everyone, he suppressed His Royal Highness Lin En, the Prince of the Empire, with his invincible talent. He not only defended his position as the first, but also won the favor of the god of law, Venor. Later, it was another experience. In the short 5 or 6 years after the 3-year agreement ended, Ron grew rapidly and soon entered the realm of the god of law. Before Rosa died, she only knew that after Ron became the god of law, in order to stop the war between the Holy Empire and another empire on the distant continent, he personally went to the distant continent to mediate for the Holy Empire. It is said that Ron was favored by the Empress of that empire and was invited as a guest of honor. As for the details, it is unclear with her identity and status. But Ron has won too many honors and applause along the way. Dragon Slayer, Forging Master, Potion Master, Alchemist, Person blessed by the Holy Spirit. And the title of Emperor Yan, after he achieved the Sacred Realm. There is no doubt that this is an extremely powerful person. The speed of his rise is unprecedented. It is rumored that he has a noble character and is very warm-hearted to his friends. But there is only one thing, that is, this god of law is quite lustful. He wants to hook up with any woman with outstanding appearance. It is said that when Yandi Luoan became a god of law, he had at least dozens of confidants and wives with official status. This also made people on the mainland talk about it with great relish, and even privately it was said that there were many small books circulating. But these are all trivial matters. It was for this reason that she came to Saint Laurent, wanting to gain the favor of the other party before the Yandi rose to power. During this month, she became familiar with him by her deliberate flattery and friendship. But she knew that this was not enough. At this time, Ron was in his prime. There were too many people flattering him. She did not have a stunning appearance and amazing talent. It was too difficult for her to gain Ron's trust. But she knew that Ron would encounter setbacks for the first time after challenging His Highness Lin En. It was also because of this setback that Ron realized the warmth and coldness of the world and grew up rapidly from then on. It is said that Linda did not abandon him at this time and followed him all the time. Therefore, later on, even when Ron had countless beauties around him, Ron was quite cold to him, but he also abandoned him. Instead, he sent him to the realm of a sanctuary magician. Therefore, Rosa also planned to wait until Ron suffered a setback, then come to meet him, take risks together, and gain Ron's trust. But who knew? When she followed all the way, what she saw was that Ron was killed by Albert. Why did Emperor Yan Ron die here? What is going on? Also, I clearly remember that Emperor Yan Ron fought with His Highness Lin En in the academy. Although Ron lost, he was not expelled from the school. But this time, not only was Ron expelled from the school, but he was even crushed to ashes by Albert. What is going on? Is there something wrong with my memory, or is what I experienced in my previous life just a dream? Rosa fell into deep self-doubt. She was in a mess. In the academy, in the castle, Albert said respectfully, "Your Highness, I have killed Ron according to your instructions, and just in case, I have burned him to ashes." Well done. Lin En put down the book and nodded. Thank you for your compliment, Your Highness. Albert was delighted by Lin En's praise, and then he seemed to have thought of something, and hurriedly said, "Look at my brain, I almost forgot." He quickly took out a necklace from the storage ring and carefully placed it on the table. "Your Highness, this is the necklace you asked me to bring back." When Lin En saw the necklace, he took it in his hand and looked at it carefully. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing the useless rising protagonist and getting a gift package. Special items are detected. Do you allow the system to swallow and absorb? When the necklace was in hand, 2 prompts sounded in succession in Lin En's mind. Special items, swallow and absorb. Lin En frowned slightly and asked, "System, what does this mean?" This system on him usually looks very Buddhist. It has been giving and never asking for anything in return. But this time, it actually wants to absorb and swallow this necklace. Could it be that this necklace is very useful to the system? When he saw this necklace on Ron, he felt that this necklace should be a little abnormal. But it was just a guess. The appearance of the system verified Lin En's guess. Hearing Lin En's question, the system said, "Sorry, this system is the damaged main system core. Because my data is lost, many things can no longer be remembered. At present, it only has the simplest basic functions. But please believe that in the core area of this system, the highest rule is unlimited loyalty to the host. If the host needs it, it can even self-destruct the system core to save the host's life." Damaged main system core, data loss. Lin En frowned, playing with the necklace in his hand, with a thoughtful look on his face. For more than 10 years, the system has been silent, and it has only appeared when he needs it. Although it has a low presence, it has actually been leading Lin En in a good direction. If you think about it carefully, this system even has some dog-licking attributes. So, Lin En still believes what the system says. But this system is actually a damaged main system core. What does this mean? Could it be that this system is an incomplete system? Thinking of this, Lin En couldn't help but ask, "System, are you incomplete?" Keywords detected. The system core is being retrieved. After saying this, the system suddenly said this, and then fell into silence. I don't know how long it took. Just when Lin En thought the system was silent, the system finally replied. This system has been damaged for unknown reasons, causing the system to collapse. Except for the system core, all functions are defective. The only instruction is to reincarnate with the host and retrieve all the lost cores. The specific details are unknown because of data loss. The system's answer made Lin En fall into deep thought. Although the information given in these words seems to be not much, it is actually enough to make people think deeply. The system actually collapsed. What caused it to collapse? Although the system was attached to him, it didn't have a strong presence. But from his perspective, this system was definitely a very powerful existence. Even the god of law couldn't find it. And such a powerful existence could actually collapse. What kind of power could do this? More importantly, the system brought the host to reincarnate. He remembered that as soon as he spoke, he was bound by the system and then given a novice gift package. This means that I was the master of this system in my previous life. So what was my identity in my previous life? One question after another appeared in Lin En's mind, leaving him puzzled. He looked at the necklace in his hand, and his mind was running fast. I don't know how long it took, but Lin En showed a determined look on his face. Since he couldn't figure it out, he would swallow the necklace into the system. Maybe after the system swallowed the necklace, it could retrieve some lost data information. Then his questions could be answered. Thinking of this, Lin En said, "Allow swallowing and absorption." After getting Lin En's permission, Lin En felt that the necklace in his hand began to melt gradually, and a progress bar appeared in the system in his mind. Swallowing and absorbing, progress, 1%, 2%, 3%. 0.98%, 99%, 100%, absorption completed. The system is upgrading. The system is alive successfully. New data is detected. Does the host want to check it? ... A series of prompts rang in Lin En's mind. When the last prompt sounded, Lin En's eyes suddenly condensed. He said without hesitation, "Check it." The moment the voice fell, Lin En only felt a flash in front of his eyes, and then the world spun. When he woke up, he found himself in a chaotic space. There were countless magic elements and various strange energies floating around. These energies filled the space, and Lin En could feel the great vitality they exuded. At the same time, Lin En found that there was a large amount of memory in his mind. After he digested it, even Lin En couldn't help showing a look of shock on his face. He found that he still underestimated the system on his body. It turned out that the system core on his body was not just a system, but a damaged main god space. The reason for the damage was that there was a war with another main god space. Although the opponent was suppressed in the end, Lin En's main god space was also broken. As a last resort, the system core could only reincarnate with Lin En, and at the same time wanted to recover the fragments of the main god space. Ron, the Destiny protagonist of the Useless Rise, was just a lucky guy who got a piece of system fragment by chance. Only by recovering these fragments one by one can Lin En's system core gradually restore all its abilities. As for his identity, he was originally the master of the system. In order to reincarnate, the system core consumed too much energy, resulting in the current ability to have only the simplest basic functions. That is to say, it gives a gift package to novices, and at the same time, to a certain extent, it helps Lin En grow up, so that the master of the system can grow up faster. As for this necklace, it contains a small fragment of the main god space. The original function is just to eliminate the negative aura brought back from the reincarnation world by the reincarnations under the main god space after completing the task. Such as being infected with a virus in the task world, suffering from a terminal illness, or even a broken arm. No matter what kind of injury you have, you can be restored to a perfect state. Even if the energy is enough, you can be reborn with a drop of blood. This is also the reason why Ron can be transformed and even want to make a comeback. And now, when the system core has merged this fragment, Lin En also has this ability. In other words, he is now invincible. Unless the enemy can turn him into ashes in an instant, he can use the system to restore to a perfect state. After figuring this out, Lin En smiled. System, open the gift bag. Congratulations to the host for killing the useless protagonist, getting the big gift bag, and gaining the magic instant ability. As we all know, magicians need time to chant before they can cast magic smoothly. Even if the proficiency of this magic has reached the level of perfection, it can only greatly reduce the chanting time, and it is impossible to achieve real instantaneous casting. Only the magic gods who live above the stars can ignore the casting time and achieve instantaneous casting. But this is only for ordinary magic. The real forbidden magic, even the forbidden magic spell, still needs a certain amount of time. But now, Lin En has gained the ability to cast magic instantly. This means that from now on, no matter what magic he casts, he can cast it instantly. This is very scary. For example, two magicians are fighting, one magician is still chanting slowly, while the other is like a machine gun, throwing magic one after another. Is it scary? Is it scary? Who can withstand this? The reason why the knight can compete with the magician is because the magician still has this weakness, and he can kill him in close combat. But Lin En's instant magic can make him a melee mage like a knight. Coupled with his Providence mage and the ability to master all systems, he has no weaknesses from now on. Instant magic, not bad. Lin En smiled. He did not seem very excited about it. After learning about those memories, Lin En knew very well. Instant magic is just a small ability among the many great magical powers he mastered in his previous life. This is just the beginning. As he gradually finds more system fragments, his authority will gradually increase. One by one, extraordinary abilities will come back. More importantly, from now on, Lin En's life is finally not so dull. Instead, there is one more goal. Find those so-called sons of luck, kill them, subdue them, plunder their systems, and strengthen themselves. For Lin En, Ron's matter is just a small episode. In the next few months, Lin En still stayed in the library. As for the Magic Academy, although Ron, the freshman chief, was expelled at the beginning, it caused a heated discussion. Of course, the hot topics were mostly about despising Ron and expressing respect for Lin En. However, the topic about Ron cooled down in a few days. After all, how could a person who rose like a comet and quickly fell silent last forever? On the contrary, after Ron, the earth-shaking explosion outside the Magic Academy attracted the attention of many people. Students speculated that such a big commotion could only be caused by at least a sanctuary-level move. The Magic Academy also sent people to investigate, but because Albert was very cautious, they did not find any valuable clues. Only a broken body was found at the scene of the explosion. According to their speculation, it should be Linda, the teacher who resigned from the academy that day. This made many tutors in the academy speculate privately. It is well known that Linda and Ron were not clear. On the day Ron was expelled, Linda resigned and left. As a result, Linda died here, and Ron disappeared. Considering the conflict between Ron and Lin En, and the existence of Albert, many people suspected that Lin En asked Albert to do it, but since there was no evidence, and there was no need to offend Lin En for Ron, it was left unresolved. A farce lasted for a while and then calmed down. The focus of all colleges in the academy has also shifted to other matters. After all, the continent is so big, there are so many strong people, and new legendary stories happen every day. Recently, the end-of-year assessment of the academy is coming soon. Freshmen will not participate in this competition, but sophomores and fifth-year students will participate. The results of this assessment will be recorded on the students' transcripts. Whether they pass or not represents their semester evaluation, and an important indicator of whether they can graduate and stay in school after graduation. It is very important for all students. All students are preparing for the exam. It is worth mentioning that in this year's assessment, many people who were originally unknown have emerged and become the hot favorites of the assessment. One of them is particularly eye-catching. A third-year student named Hansen has been unknown and silent for 3 years since he came to the academy. But who would have thought that he would suddenly rise in a month-end test this time? Not only does he have a deep understanding of magic, but he even rescues a 4-star thief who wants to steal from a poor girl outside the school. This matter was reported back to the academy and immediately caused quite a stir. Being able to defeat a 4-star thief in public, no matter what means Hansen used, it means that his strength is not weak. Of course, the reason why this incident caused such a sensation is mainly because the poor girl who was rescued by this hero is very beautiful. The relationship between the two also heated up sharply because of this time. It is said that the girl often comes to the Magic Academy and gives him meals she made herself. This also made many students in the college envious, wondering why they were not the heroes who saved the beauty. In addition, more importantly, this Hansen is not only strong, but also has an extraordinary understanding of potion making. A tutor who is extremely proficient in potion science once wanted to accept him as a disciple, but was rejected by him. I am interested in magic and am not interested in other things. These are Hansen's original words. It is said that after this word spread, the tutor was quite regretful, but could only shake his head helplessly. Of course, in addition to the rumors about Hansen, there are other hotly discussed figures in the college. Among these big and small figures, a female freshman named Rosa has quietly become a hot topic for a small group of people. The outside world is all around, but it can't stop Lin En's desire to study. During this period of time, Lin En has been soaking in the library, absorbing the nutrients of knowledge. In his opinion, except for those so-called children of destiny, only knowledge can arouse his interest and enthusiasm. During this period of time, Lin En has been reading books. Reading books related to magic. Although his magic skills have not been deliberately improved, because of his own talent, countless magic elements are pouring in every moment, so in a short period of time, he has advanced to the level of a 7-star magician. Below the holy domain, there are 9 stars for magicians. 1 star is the lowest and 9 stars are the highest. Here we need to talk about the various levels of magicians. 1 star is a formal magician. 2 stars are primary magicians. 3 stars are intermediate magicians. 4 stars are senior magicians. 5 stars are great magicians. 6 stars are magicians. 7-star great magicians. 8-star magicians. 9-star great magicians. Above 9 stars is the holy domain. The reason why it is called the holy domain is that at this point, it has exceeded the scope of mortals, and every wave of the hand carries the power of the laws of heaven and earth. The holy domain is further divided into 3 levels. They are the domain magicians, which is also the realm after entering the holy domain. After that comes the forbidden spell master. After that comes the celestial mage. The 3 levels of the holy domain are collectively called the holy mage. After the holy mage, it is the realm of God, a realm that mortals cannot reach in their lifetime, a taboo, a legend, an epic. It is the god of law who lives in the stars. And Lin En is currently in the realm of the 7-star grade mage. In less than half a year, from a beginner who has never stepped into the field of magic to a 7-star grade mage, he has gone through a level that most magicians cannot reach in their lifetime. If this speed is spread, it will probably shock the entire continent. And this is just the result of Lin En not practicing specifically. If he used all his study time to practice, he would probably have at least touched the level of the 9-star grade mage. But Lin En is very clear. The ultimate core of magic is still knowledge. If you don't understand the core of magic and only rely on the power of magic, even if you make rapid progress for a while, your final growth will be very limited. Only by going deep into magic and understanding magic can we achieve the ultimate control of magic. Because of this idea, Lin En has learned a lot of new things during this period, which opened his eyes and opened a new door. In addition, with the guidance of Vinuo, the god of law walking in the world, Lin En's knowledge accumulation is proceeding at a very terrifying speed. Just like now, he is watching the mystery of the wind forbidden spell in the library. Although he has not yet reached the point where he can compete for the holy domain, with his knowledge accumulation in the past 16 years, he can already comprehend some laws. When he meditates, those rune laws that are very obscure to ordinary magicians will be arranged and combined in his mind, and finally turned into a language that he can easily understand. The language mentioned here is the language of heaven and earth. If people want to understand it, they can only transform it into a pattern. This is a natural symbol. Magicians call it a totem. Totems are exclusive to holy magicians. Anyone who advances to a holy magician must use the corresponding elements to build his own totem. This represents the magician's understanding and control of the elements. A magician with his own totem can form his own domain. In this exclusive domain, the magician is the master of everything, and has a crushing advantage over those below the holy magician. This is the origin of the word, holy domain. As a full system magician, Lin En has all 7 attributes. If he wants to advance to the holy magician, he must master all the laws of the 7 systems. In other words, it is to build a 7-system totem. Of course, he can also choose to specialize in one of them to advance to the holy magician. But why bother? Being able to advance all 7 systems to the holy magician will be countless times stronger than an ordinary single-system holy magician. And to obtain these, all you have to pay is a little more time. Now, although Lin En is only at the level of a 7-star grade magician, his totem has already taken shape, and with Lin En's continuous progress, the totem is also constantly improving. This perfection will continue until Lin En truly advances to the realm of the holy mage, and then it will be completed in one fell swoop. When Vino learned that Lin En had already started to build his own totem in such a short time, he was speechless for a while. After a long time, he sighed. Genius, it is really different. Hey Lin En, are you still reading books about building totems? Just when Lin En was still reading, Ms. Margaret's voice rang in his ears. Lin En woke up from his immersion, looked up at Ms. Margaret, and said with a smile, "Yes, Ms. Margaret, do you have something to see me today?" "I don't have anything to see you, it's your teacher who has something to do." Ms. Margaret stretched her waist and said, "Your teacher asked you to go to his office." Lin En pondered for a moment, then said, "Did the teacher say when to go?" "That's not the case." "In that case, then go later." Lin En nodded, then continued to lower his head and read the book. Seeing that Lin En didn't give Vino any face at all, Ms. Margaret was stunned for a moment, then left with a big laugh. It wasn't until the sun set in the west and the moon was over the treetops that Lin En left the library leisurely. Dean's office. Vino was flipping through a book, while Lin En sat opposite him, looking straight ahead, eyes slightly narrowed, as if thinking about something. I don't know how long it took, but Vino finally finished the work at hand. Looking up at Lin En, he smiled and said, "How long have you been here?" "Just arrived." After Lin En finished speaking, he looked at Vino and said softly, "Dear Dean, my teacher, you called me here this time, do you need me to help you with anything?" "Not for me, but for you." Vino looked at his most proud disciple in front of him, and couldn't help but smiled and said, "I heard that you have been reading in the library since you enrolled." Although I am very pleased that you are diligent and studious, as a magician, your life is still too boring after all. Haste makes waste. I hope you can be more optimistic and more positive about life. In another month, the college will conduct an assessment, and I hope you can participate at that time, of course, as the college's review tutor. As a review tutor, you will review and score the reference students this time, which determines whether these children can graduate from school smoothly. Go, just take it as a way to relax. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.